When I asked Drake to keep me company at the party, I planned to flirt and dance. To give Bastion a little taste of his own medicine. Annoyance. That was the plan. An annoyed Bastion is manageable. An enraged Bastion is dangerous. I stare at my husband with wide eyes. He's standing in the doorway, on the verge of shifting, fury rolling off him in waves. His metallic gaze is locked on my face, on my tears and Drake's comforting hands. Drake doesn't seem the least bit troubled by the rabid creature looming over us. He slides his fingers from my skin, turning to Bastion with a friendly smile. Bastion, it's been a while. Too long, Bastion agrees. So long you seem to have forgotten who you're dealing with. Drake rolls his eyes, and I have a sudden and newfound respect for the young alpha. He may wear the face of a playful rogue, but underneath he is every bit the hard and commanding leader the role demands. Honestly, Bastion, I didn't think you'd be so ungrateful, he quips. In case you haven't heard, I saved your wife's life tonight. I wouldn't have had to if you'd been here. Bastion's claws extend and retract compulsively, betraying the conflict raging within him. Drake's words were an outright provocation, but there was no denying the truth in them. After a moment, Bastion settles into a low simmer, striding past the other man to reach me. He drags me into a tight embrace, cuddling me to his chest. What happened? Feeling suddenly warm and hazy. It takes me a moment to realize he asked a question. Drake subby apparently suffers no such impediment. You have some vipers in your nest, he drawls. It was only a matter of time before one striked. I plant my palms against Bastion's chest, trying to push away from him so I can pin Drake with the full force of my indignant glare. What happened to heroes don't tattle? Drake's face scrunches up in a wince, and I belatedly realize my mistake. I look up at my husband, whose handsome features are awash with foreboding. Am I to take it you intended to keep this information secret? He asks, his voice dangerously low. I lower my gaze, careful not to challenge his dominance. It wasn't a big deal, I argue. It's not as if she knew I couldn't swim. I see Bastion's head turn in my periphery, and realize he's now looking to Drake, who... His answer is immediate. Redhead, blue dress, gaggle of minions trailing after her wherever she goes. Bastion releases me swiftly but gently, moving for the door. Keep her here, he orders sharply. How? Boo? She? 10 minutes later the door swings open, and Aiden pokes his head in. Bastion would like to see you in the Great Hall. Drake and I move silently through the opulent building, finally arriving in the hall just in time to see the rest of the party guests gather within. We move forward, slipping through the crowd until the object of everyone's attention is revealed. Bastion stands in the center of the hall, the redhead from the gardens at his feet. Bastion gestures us forward, still vibrating with anger. We stop a few feet away, and the she-wolf looks up at Bastion sulkily, as if asking whether she really has to do this. Bastion makes short work of her hesitance, clamping one large hand around the back of her neck and steering her forward until she's kneeling before me. Speak, he hisses in her ear. Seline? A sharp growl makes her wince. Mrs. Durand, I'm deeply sorry for the things I said, and the way I treated you. I was horribly disrespectful, and I should never have spoken to my alpha's wife in such a way. Another warning growl thunders in my husband's chest, and the woman quickly amends her statement. I should never have treated you that way. No matter who you are, I'm not sure what I'd expected, but this isn't it. Part of me is indignant. I'll never learn to stand on my own 2 feet if other people are always fixing my problems for me. The rest of me is gushing pure elation. For the first time in my memory, Bastion is putting me ahead of the pack. He's protecting me, making a public example of my detractors, and staking his claim for all to see. I stare down at the she-wolf with growing contempt. She'd been so fierce and fearless when she was bullying me, emboldened by my vulnerability and weakness. Now she looks anything but strong. She looks like a spoiled child who got their hand caught in the cookie jar. No, you shouldn't have. I agree. I suggest you never do so again. You won't like the outcome, I warn. Bastion gives me a small smile before turning his attention to the gathered audience. That goes for all of you, he announces. If I hear anyone speaking about my wife in such a way, or anyone lays a hand on her again, I will not be held accountable for my actions. Hi. Hout. The joy of Bastion's public display fades almost immediately. Everything was fine when we sat down to dinner. But by the end of the second course, my husband was back to acting as if I don't exist. He's behaving very strangely, almost as if he's drunk tea. But he's only had one glass of wine. He's vacillating back and forth between giddiness, aggression, and detachment. One moment he's so happy. He's grinning like a fool. The next he's snarling and growling at anything that moves, and 5 minutes after that he can't even focus enough to eat his dinner. I'm starting to worry. We make it through the meal in starts and stops, and Bastion's odd does not go unnoticed. I see his parents exchange glances a few times, but no one says anything. As the waitstaff clears our places following dessert, and the party begins to shift toward the ballroom, I catch him. Bastion, I say firmly, grasping his arm to get his attention. He swings his attention to me in a daze. His pupils are dilated and his eyes glassy. Are you all right? I question pointedly, checking his forehead for a temperature but finding nothing amiss. Before he can answer me, a young socialite approaches his side and asks him to dance. I recognize her as one of the women who'd been gossiping with my would-be murderer. I shoot her a disgruntled frown, but she smiles defiantly back at me. Bastion rises without a word, following her into the ballroom without a backward glance. Unease prickles at the back of my neck. It was extremely odd for a pack member to approach and proposition an alpha this way, Thundi, even if he weren't married. The general rule is that unless you need their assistance with something, they'll come to you. I have many doubts about my husband Devi, about my marriage Thuvin. But I know something is wrong. This is not Bastion. His behavior is completely out of character, regardless of how he may feel about me or Arabella or anyone else. He is not in control, and he is always in control. I find my feet and notice Aiden studying Bastion's wine glass out of the corner of my eye. I shift in his direction, and our eyes meet. We're both thinking the same thing. Aiden slips the goblet into his jacket, no doubt planning to take it for testing. Aiden's confirmation is all the confirmation I need to go after Bastion, whatever happens in the future. Bastion has watched my back for years without complaint. The least I can do is return the favor. Doubt lingers in my mind as I search the crowd. What if he will not come away? What if he publicly rejects me after making such a display a few hours ago? It's a risk I have to take. It only takes a moment to find them. They stand at the center of the dance floor, Bastion swaying drunkenly next to the blonde, who is wrapped around him like cling film. I glide through the swaying mass of dancers, never taking my eyes from the pair. In the end, I needn't have worried about being rejected. When Bastion sees me over his partner's shoulder, he steps away from her without a word, closing the distance between us as if in a trance. I rise up on my tiptoes when he is in front of me, looping my arms around his neck so I can speak in his ear. I think it's time to go home. Bastion's arms close around my middle, and he pulls me flush to his body, continuing to sway to the music. I drop back down onto my heels as he begins to turn us haphazardly around the dance floor. His intimate grip and undulating movements arousing my erogenous zones and muddling my own thoughts. I am caught between my desire to extract us both from my situation and my instincts to submit to my husband. Bastion might be out of his right mind, but he is the same dominant alpha he's always been. and my body responds thus whether my brain is in agreement or not. Eventually, he solves the problem for me. His strangely shifting moods take a turn for the riskus. One moment we're dancing, and the next Bastion has dragged me out a side door and pressed me up against the wall, kissing and nibbling my neck. Bastion. I gasp, trying to get his attention. Take me home. I free my hands from their trapped position between our bodies and catch his face between them. I need you to take me home. I implore, hoping my words will trigger the caretaker in him. He frowns down at me for a long moment, as if trying to remember something he's long forgot. Bastion's confused expression gives way to something feverish and fierce before he takes me by the hand and pulls me out the door. My wolf is going out of his mind. With the need to claim Seline, she's driving. Her attention fully focused on the road, but every few minutes she sends a worried glance my way. She's so beautiful, and her sweet scent is making my mouth water. I'm not sure I can wait to get home. I want to take her now, finally make her mine in every way possible. I've been worried about my little wolf lately. First, the strange illness and her refusal to seek help. Then the incident with Arabella and her flight from the hospital. Worse was her determination to hide from me during the storm and her devastation throughout. Her secretive behavior afterwards. Perhaps it is simply that so much has happened in such a short period of time. Or that I'm projecting my own distress about the rejection onto her. But something tells me there is more to her actions than meets the eye. Tonight didn't help. Staying on task after learning that Seline had nearly drowned had been nearly impossible. Only Aiden's level-headed counsel kept me from tearing through the city to reach her. When I was finally free to leave, I'd been ready to cart her out of the party. Pack obligations be damned. Then, I found her with Drake Kavanaugh. It infuriated me to know that he'd been there for her when I was not, that he'd done my job and I couldn't even hold it against him. He'd been right. If it weren't for him, she would have died, and there would have been no one to blame but myself. Still, seeing him comfort her, seeing Seline no longer wearing my colors but sporting his, made Axel roar in outrage. My wishes to abandon the party were eroded by my need to formally stake my claim. But even that went out the window when Drake told me what Seline apparently intended to hide wide, what she'd lied to my parents about. Yes. Something is definitely wrong. This is not terribly unusual for my wife. Communicating her emotions is very difficult for her Tivity. With good reason. Her brain had been wired to associate showing her emotions as a vulnerability others would exploit to inflict harm upon her. But I thought we'd made good progress over the years. It seems getting to the truth of the matter will require some creative solutions. In the back of my mind, I'm already devising countless debauch strategies for making her talk. But right now, my plans for Seline have nothing to do with extracting secrets, and everything to do with filling the gaping hole in my chest where our mating bond is supposed to implant. I know I'm dangerously on edge, that Axel's desperation to join with her is dangerous for my delicate mate. Yet I can't dampen the flames engulfing me. I need Seline in the most raw and primal way. I've been ravenous to claim her for years, and the strange fog now dulling my ability to reason is like a sweeping invitation to give in to my base instincts. I've been lost to this bizarre haze since dinner first started, the world going fuzzy all around me. At first, it seemed like everything was underwater, dulled, distant, and distorted. Now everything has reduced to a single focal point, Seline. My drowsy euphoria has slowly morphed into excruciating lust and the gradual disintegration of my inhibitions. I feel the way she wolves must in heat, as if my entire world has reduced to a single searing need, so powerful and all-consuming I think I might go mad without it. Axel's urging to claim Seline right there on the dance floor had jarred my senses enough to slip away from the pack. But only my wife's gentle plea had overpowered my desire enough to get me out of the building. Now I count the minutes until we reach home, knowing with a resigned sort of certainty that I've finally lost the battle against my instincts. Tonight I will mark Seline once and for all. Tout. Seline's point of view. By the time we get home, Bastion is so far gone into the drug that I barely recognize him. Though his pupils are still blown wide, the glowing state of his eyes betray how close he is to shifting. His claws and fangs are halfway extended, and the low purr in his chest is sending tortuous vibrations through my most sensitive parts. I'm barely able to drag him inside and up to our room. He's stumbling and swaying like a drunk, but he's also determined to get his hands on me, attempting to remove my clothes multiple times as we ascend the stairs to the top floor. I swat him away every time, ignoring his admonishing growls. When we finally enter our apartment, I don't even make it 2 steps inside before I'm trapped between Bastion and the door. Bastion's mouth slams down on mine with crushing force. The violent fervor of his lips devastate my senses as his arms wind around my body, pulling me close and lifting my feet off the floor. I wrap my arms around his neck and my legs around his waist, clinging to him like the lifeline he is. He devours me, body and soul. His lips blaze a scorching path over my skin as he strips me bare, his powerful hands stroking and kneading my flesh so forcefully. It seems he's trying to fuse our bodies together. I throw myself into his embrace just as passionately, slanting my mouth beneath his to deepen the kiss. His tongue delves into my mouth, coaxing mine out of hiding to tangle with his. Bastion groans with pleasure as my hips rock intuitively against his, and the world around me fades. I melt into his arms, giving myself over to the heady rush of desire. His lips claim every bare inch of skin they can reach, his teeth nipping my delicate skin, only to be followed by the soothing caress of his tongue. My heart feels full to bursting, and my lungs feel empty of air. I breathe Bastion in, knowing he is the only cure for the ache. The bittersweet pang of love and imminent loss consumes me. Another last kiss. Another last chance to be with the man who gave meaning to my life when it seemed all was lost. The tears fall without my permission. They slide down my heated cheeks before I can stop them. And I know the moment Bastion scents them. His pulls away from me abruptly, concern and regret written plainly across his face. It's nothing, I promise. But he isn't convinced. I'm sorry, Bastion professes gutturally, looking absolutely beside himself as he sets my feet on the ground and shifts away. I try to follow him, but he holds out his hand, stopping me from coming near. Don't, he orders, please don't make this any harder. A frigid draft of air sweeps over me, freezing my blood. I don't understand. I can't be near you. He growls, eyes flashing. You're making it worse. Bastion. No, Seline. He cuts me off. I can't do this. It will ruin everything. His words are slurred, his eyes unfocused. I gulp in a few steadying breaths, and understanding slams into me. Whatever Bastion is on, is sending him into rut, and I was merely the closest female thigh, but not the one he wants, not the one he needs. Do you want me to call Arabella? I offer, hating the words but unable to stand the tortured expression on his face. He grimaces. She's still in the hospital. Color floods my cheeks. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. Bastion growls. Do you want me to go? I ask in a small voice. Number. I almost feel relieved until he adds, You stay, I'll go. The door slams shut as Bastion storms down the stairs. And I slide to the floor of my foyer. My tears fall unhindered now. Grief and rejection egged on by my seething hormones. Confusion and anger surge through me as I try to figure out where I went wrong. How I got here. A few days ago, I was happier than I've ever been in my entire life. Now I feel as if the world is crumbling beneath my feet. My marriage is over. My husband, 7'2", the love of my life, Sudi, wants nothing to do with me. My pack hates me for the crimes someone else committed against me. And I'm pregnant with a child that has already survived one attempt on its fragile life. I've always known I would have to leave Elysium after the rejection ceremony. But it's beginning to feel like I need to move up my plans. I'm afraid of what might happen if I stay here. And I know that the best case scenario still ends with heartbreak. I don't know where I'm going to go. But I know the best thing I can possibly do for my baby is get out of this place while I still can. I hate to leave the people I love, but I also don't think I can bear to watch them replace me with Arabella. My days with the Nova Pack are numbered. I have to get out before it's too late. 5 hours earlier. I stare at the flare in my hands, my hackles raised. It's a reward poster, not the kind people pin up to find lost pets or missing children, but the kind law enforcement agencies use to locate wanted criminals. It has precisely the same format, asking for tips or any information regarding the whereabouts of Vallana wolves, listing details on how to identify them, and promising monetary compensation for any solid leads. A crude illustration was plastered beneath the words, displaying a woman with black hair and two-toned eyes. She looks nothing like Seline, but the descriptions provided offer enough details for even the most clueless wolf to identify members of her lineage. "Where the hell did you find this?" I asked Aiden in horror, when he'd called me right before my father's celebration, insisting it was an emergency. I'd known something had to be terribly wrong. Aiden knew how important this event was. He would not call me away for no reason. Even so, this was worse than I'd imagined. One of our spies in the east came across it just outside of Calypso territory. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to have spread any farther than that. His warm brown eyes survey me curiously. "Do you have any idea why they're looking for Vallanas? Everyone in Elysium knows what Seline is. But I've gone to considerable effort to gloss over and downplay her lineage, and no one knows the secret of her blood. I study my right hand, hating myself for questioning whether he can be trusted. Other than my family, I trust Aiden more than anyone, but Seline's safety is too precious to risk. I know that Blaze Denizen is a cruel and twisted man," I say, referring to the Calypso Alpha. "If he wants Vallanas, I guarantee it isn't for anything good." Aiden eyes me for a second, and I know he caught my evasion. Instead of looking offended, he simply asks, "You have reason to believe he's a danger to Seline." "I know he is," I admit. "Is that why we sent spies east in the first place?" Aiden questions. "You thought something like this might happen?" Now I do hear an edge in his voice, and I can't blame him for being annoyed. He can't do his job if he's working with incomplete information. "Yes," I concede softly. "What the hell, Bastion?" he snaps. "Do you really trust me so little?" "It isn't like that," I promised tiredly. I promised her I wouldn't share this secret with anyone, even you. When it comes to the safety of my alpha's mate Fivin, my best friend's mate Sivinti, I need to know what's going on," he declares harshly. "I don't have to know the details. You don't have to betray confidences, but I can't protect this pack if you're withholding intelligence." "I know, brother. I'm sorry," I reply honestly. The fact is simply that Blaze will kill Seline if he finds her. He'll kill any Vallana he finds. Aiden scrubs a hand over his face. "We need to be proactive." He waves the flyer in the air. "This reward is only going to get higher and spread farther. We either need to neutralize Denizen, or make sure the truth can never get back to him. I'd like nothing more than to get rid of the man." I grumble. "But I am not alpha yet, and even if I was Sudihi's the most powerful pack leader on the continent, we'd need an army to take him down." "You're right," Aiden agrees. "We couldn't win a war against the Calypsos, but who said it has to be a war?" I snort. "So what, you want to assassinate him?" Aiden grins. You have to admit the idea has its merits. I can't help but laugh. That's true enough. I mean it, I'm already fantasizing about disemboweling the cruel leader. But for the time being, let's focus on increasing surveillance and spreading counter-propaganda. Publicize some of Blaze's less savory pursuits. The more unpopular we make him, the less people will want to help him. Popularity isn't your problem. Aiden reminds me, money is, few people actually like the man, but plenty would help the devil himself if he offered enough money. I'm staring at the poster again. A new thought crossing my mind. Who do we have? That's good with graphics. Aiden shrugs. Eddie's pretty good in a pinch. I nod in agreement. See if he can duplicate this. Set up a new phone line devoted to tips and replace it with denizens. I say, the plan coming together as I speak it. Put them up everywhere, across the continent, all the way to the east. Replace as many of his posters as possible. My beta's brow furrows. Why would you bring more attention to this? First, because I want to know who is calling and what they're reporting. Second, because if we can get to Valana's first, we can help them. I explain. And third, because if people think they've already reported a tip, it won't matter if Denizen's real posters actually spread this far. Anyone with information will think they've already contributed it. Aiden nods in agreement. I'll get Eddie on it right away. I thank him. In the meantime, we need to figure out security for Seline after the rejection ceremony. Aiden grimaces. Are you sure you want to go through with this? He borraches carefully, eyeing the flyer, especially now. My job is to do what's best for my mate. I speak the words I've chanted in my head over and over again these past few weeks. She's never had any choices in her life and deserves them now. She's in love with someone else. I want her to be happy. And what about your happiness? Aiden demands. Don't you deserve to be happy too? No, I think. Not really. I killed my best friend. I abandoned his sister after promising to care for her. And I forced my traumatized mate to marry me soon, even if it was for her protection. If Seline is happy, I will be too. I answer. I tell myself I'm being honest. And part of me believes it. But deep down I know that watching someone else make my mate happy will destroy me. Even so, it's a fitting punishment. Howd. Shoo. Man. This really isn't your day. Aiden says, standing over me with his arms crossed over his chest. I groan, too exhausted to do anything other than swat at him from my position sprawled out over his couch. I feel as if I've been hit by a Bastion both emotionally and physically. After barely making it out of the apartment without doing something I would regret, I came straight to my beta, who welcomed me in with open arms and only light teasing. You do realize they drugged you? He says pointedly. Who is they? I ask savagely. If I had to guess, I'd say it was Seline's new friend. He answers referring to Amanda, who almost killed my mate with her little pool assault. But honestly, it could have been any one of the harpies. The harpies. I repeat in confusion. All the silly she-wolves who used to chase after you just because you were the alpha's son. He expounds. You know the ones. They almost revolted when you married Seline, and I guarantee they think they have a chance now that you're splitting. How the hell does anyone even know about the rejection? I snarl. We haven't announced anything. You know how gossip is around here. Aiden admonishes me. The walls have ears. I swear, fiercely frustrated beyond words. We need to find out who is responsible, Thuddy, and what the hell they gave me. Already on it. Aiden assures me. I nabbed your glass from the dinner table. We'll get it tested. I sigh with relief. When did you figure it out? Halfway through dinner? He reflects uncertainly. About the time you started growling at the waiter for refilling Seline's water glass. I wince, not remembering that particular detail. Don't worry about it too much. Thivin, you were behaving oddly but you didn't say or do anything too wild. I was getting ready to cart you out of there. But Seline beat me to it. You should have acted faster. I grouse unfairly. I shouldn't have been alone with her. Aiden brushes off my foul mood like the easygoing person he is. I acted the best I could based on the information I had, and Seline was the best person for you to be with under the circumstances. I almost marked her. I snarl furiously, but you didn't. Aiden reasons coolly. If you'd gone away with anyone else, it would have been a disaster. You would have caved to one of the harpies and created a scandal or lashed out at one of the men for trying to keep you from your mate. Instead, you took the edge off and got through it. Barely. I mutter mutinously, "Stop whining." Aiden scolds. We have more important things to worry about. Someone in this pack thinks they can drug their future alpha and get away with it. Do you want to prove them right, or do you want to make them pay? I don't answer. Distracted by a persistent buzzing in my pocket, I pull out my phone, finding Seline's photo plastered across the screen, announcing an incoming call. Guilt swirls in my stomach. I can't handle talking to her right now. With a heavy sigh, I hit the decline button. Seline's point of view. After my third call goes to voicemail, I close my eyes bitterly. Today has been too much. Sometimes being with Bastion feels like being a human yo-yo. First he's sweet and flirtatious. Then he abandons me. He comes to my defense, only to ignore me afterwards. Then he's all over me, only to walk out when things start to get truly heated. It's frustrating. When I hear the outgoing message of his voicemail on my fourth call, I make a decision. Bastion. Call me, I say. I want to talk about our rejection ceremony as soon as you can. I can't wait 5 days, we need to move it up. I haven't seen or spoken to Bastion since the night of Gabriel's birthday party. Despite my efforts to get in touch with him, I barely slept that night, though I never sleep well without Bastion. I tossed and turned, wondering where he'd gone. What had happened? It's clear to me that he was drugged, but I cannot even begin to understand everything that happened between us in those few short hours. All I know is I'm done. The last few weeks have been a blur. More confusing and eventful than any since we married. I can barely think straight with everything that is going on, but I think I've finally understood that Elysium 2 and the life I've lived here is in the past. I was never meant to stay here forever. I do not belong, and this chapter of my story is ending fast. Our rejection ceremony is in 3 days. After that, I will start fresh somewhere new. My selfish heart wants nothing more than to spend every last second of my remaining time with my husband, even if he doesn't want me there. Regardless of my wishes, it is not an option. I don't know where Bastion is or how he's feeling, though I imagine it must be a considerable relief for him to finally be free to do as he wishes in life. I'm on my way to the library, intent on researching other packs to help me decide where to go once the rejection is complete. I know embarrassingly little about the world beyond this city, and though I know well enough not to go anywhere near my mother's pack, I don't have the faintest idea where I should turn for refuge. I'm seated on the City Line bus, watching Elysium fly by outside the tall, wide windows. I've only ridden the bus a few times over the last few years, mostly in moments like this one when I don't want Bastion to know what I'm doing. I know my husband well enough to realize that, though he might not want to be married to me, he would never approve of me leaving. He and Gabriel think of me as their responsibility. Their ward Tevin neither will want me out of their sights. Luckily for me, it isn't their decision. I scan the paper in my hand, a quickly jotted list of nearby territories to get me started. I catch the man beside me eyeing the paper too, and quickly fold it closed. There had only been one available seat when I boarded. And though my neighbor's leering gaze has made me nothing but uncomfortable, I've comforted myself with the knowledge that this is only a short trip. When the bus finally pulls to a stop outside the library, I rise to my feet so quickly my head spins. I stride quickly from the oversized vehicle, my stomach dropping below my navel, when I realize the man who'd sat next to me departing as well. I make for the library entrance with a racing heart, unsure whether my instincts are trying to warn me of real danger, or if my past trauma is playing tricks with my mind. I slip inside the historic building, pulling an armful of volumes from the shelves and finding a table near the circulation desk. Once I'm sure I'm alone, I dial Bastion's cell, still anxious about the man from the bus. I hide my phone beneath the curtain of my hair, worried the librarian might take offense if he realizes I'm making a call. However, there was no need to be concerned, because Bastion doesn't answer. My call goes straight to voicemail, as do the next 5 calls I make. I shouldn't be surprised. I've tried calling him a dozen times over the past few days to no avail. I understood his silence before. After all, I clearly told him in my texts and voicemails that I wanted to discuss the rejection ceremony. I can sympathize with the desire to avoid an unpleasant conversation, but this is different. I need him tisty, and he isn't here for me. I spend more than an hour poring through the texts, feeling marginally more confident when I finally leave, but still undecided about where I should go. I like the idea of the Eros pack, who control a vast territory in the West, but I worry about their ties to the Novas. The Eros pack leaders had been at Gabriel's birthday. Their heir rescued me from drowning. They knew me. If I went there, would they betray my location, the existence of my child, to Bastion? The same problem was true of the Vega pack. I need to avoid our allies, I think firmly. As I'm leaving the library, I notice a familiar scent, one that makes me stop in my tracks. It is not merely the fact that I recognize the scent which startles me, but the realization that I'm smelling it at all. Ever since I lost Luna, my wolf senses have been non-existent. Tuvendai. I should not be able to smell anyone this way. What should and should not be quickly ceases to matter as the man from the bus appears in front of me. He is easily a foot taller than me, with thick black hair and icy blue eyes. At least 20 years my senior, he closes in. "Hello, beautiful." My heart stops, and I back away carefully, once again inevitably frustrated by Bastion not picking up his phone when I needed him. "Hello." A wide smile splits his cheeks. "Oh, come on. Don't look like that, sweetheart. I want us to be friends." I shake my head. "I'm not interested. How can you say that when you don't even know me?" He counters, his ogling stare belying the reasonable tone of his voice. "I know because I'm married," I say, sounding much braver than I feel. "Not for long from the way I hear it," he replies gruffly. "What's wrong? The Alpha doesn't want you anymore, Angel. Whatever may be happening in the future, at this moment I am still your Alpha's wife." I remind him, whether he loves me or hates me, if you put your hands on me, you will be challenging him directly. "Is that so?" The man sneers. "Yes." I insist. He laughs cruelly. "I don't think so. If he cared about you, he wouldn't be leaving you." I turn to run, but he catches my wrist, jerking me into an alleyway. I try to cry out, but his hand clamps down over my mouth. I thrash against him, biting down on his palm. He jerks away with a pained yelp, then delivers a harsh backhanded slap across my face. I lurch to the pavement, feeling nausea curdle in my belly, as stars swirl in my vision. I flip over, crawling away from him as he looms over my vulnerable body. His hand reaches toward me, coming within inches of my throat before he is propelled backwards, flying through the air and landing on his back at the mouth of the alley. I gaze up at my savior, my breath coming in gasps. Drake Kavanaugh stands over the man, his booted foot crushing the stranger's larynx. "What in hell do you think you were doing?" She was asking for it. Just look at her. My would-be assaulter babbles in panic. Drake looks over his shoulder, surveying me carefully before turning his attention back to his prey. And you asked for this. He growls, slamming his foot down on the man's head. I stare at the unconscious man as Drake helps me to my feet, waiting for him to jerk awake and attack once more. But he does not move. He lies there on the pavement, blood trickling from his lips. I try to scrub the image from my memory, letting Drake lead me out of the alley and into the light. I hate to say it, Mrs. Durand, he says with a kind smile, but you seem like a magnet for trouble. I almost laugh, but my nerves are too frayed. You're not wrong. I agree gloomily. I don't know what I ever did to deserve it. Drake pulls up short, taking me by the shoulders. That isn't what I meant. You didn't do anything wrong whatsoever. He frowns. I think we should call your husband. I shake my head. He won't pick up. I've called Bastion 6 times over the past couple of days, each time getting no response. Then, tell me what I can do for you. Drake implores me. There must be something. Actually, there is. I hedge, taking a steadying breath. You can tell me about the Eros Pact. And when? Why do you want to know all this? Drake is sitting across from me in a small tea shop, sipping a mug of chamomile and willingly answering the bevy of questions that have poured from my mouth uninhibited over the last hour. I watch him closely, weighing whether or not he can be trusted. He has a kind face, and he saved me twice in under a week. Of course, this is not a guarantee that he is a good person or anyone suitable to confide in. But something deeply buried instinct urges me forward, because I'm not staying in Elysium after the rejection. Oh, Drake says, his brow furrowing, so you're looking for a new pack. I shrug evasively. I'm looking for someplace I will be safe, somewhere people won't come looking for me. What people? He asks sharply. Bastion? A bitter smile stretches across my face. He wouldn't have any reason to seek me out, but I wouldn't want him to find me if he did. Drake doesn't look convinced. Are you in some sort of trouble, Seline? My husband doesn't want me. I remind him. Isn't that trouble enough? The young alpha's mouth is set in a hard line as he sets down his tea, pinning me with a stern glare. I want to help you, Seline, and I give you my word that I will, but only if you are honest with me. I gnaw on my lower lip, considering the man in front of me. And if I tell you something you don't think should be kept secret, it's your life, he assures me gently. Not mine. I'll respect your confidence. Call me a fool. But I believe him. I take a deep breath, furtively scanning the room to make sure we will not be overheard before giving him the full weight of my attention. I'm pregnant. Drake sits across from me, appearing surprised, but sympathetic as he processes my revelation. Bastion doesn't know, he asks. Number? I confirm simply, and he's not going to find out. I rub the back of my neck. Our situation has always been complicated. But Bastion is a good man. If he found out the truth, he would never go through with the rejection, and I won't have him stay with me out of pity or obligation. For what it's worth, Drake offers kindly, I think he's a fool for wanting to reject you at all. Then you're one of the few. I reply honestly. He frowns. Is the baby the reason you're leaving? It's the reason I realized I had to go, I confess. But in all honesty, I don't think I could have stayed either way. I don't want to watch Bastion marry someone else. Hot tears burn my eyes, and I'm sick of being the pack sideshow. I need a fresh start someplace where nobody knows me, where my baby and I can be safe. Drake squeezes my hand. I understand. I swipe at an escaped tear, and he offers me his napkin. I take it with appreciation, dabbing my eyes. If you want to come to Asphodel, I will help you in any way I can. We'll find you a place to live, a job. We'll introduce you to the pack as a distant cousin and never mention the Novas at all. I blink in surprise, a kernel of hope blooming in my chest. What about your father? My father is getting older. Most pack business has been under my control for a few years now. Drake explains. If I tell him it is important we help you, on your terms, he will respect my decision. I don't understand why you would do this for me. I state warily, has the world truly been so cruel to you that kindness is cause for such suspicion? From anyone else the words might have sounded self-righteous or judgmental, but from Drake they merely sounded aggrieved. Yes. I confirm icily it has. He frowns deeply, taking my hand again. I'm sorry, Seline, he professes. It won't have to be that way for much longer. Truly. I ask in disbelief. Truly. He vows. Have you thought about how you want to do it? How I'm going to leave? You mean? Yes. Not really. I've mostly been thinking about the after part of the equation. I wince at my own short-sightedness. That's all right. Drake insists. It has to be soon. I announce abruptly, before he can figure out that I'm with Pup. Don't worry, he advises. We'll come up with a plan together. By this time next week, it will be like you were never here. How? T. 1 Dalton. Why, until the rejection ceremony, the day before our rejection ceremony, I slip away to Elysium's shopping center, intent on purchasing new clothes and supplies for my imminent departure. Drake and I talked for many hours on Sunday, laying out plans for my flight from Elysium. He helped me realize that slipping away in the night would not be enough to truly escape. As I already suspected, Gabriel and Bastion's sense of responsibility for my well-being would result in a search, one that would extend into Arrow's territory, and may not be thwarted by the Alpha's protection alone. If I truly want to be free of my past, I must sever myself from it completely, leaving no room for doubt or second guesses among those I leave behind. It had not been easy for Drake to convince me to fake my death. After all, I do not want to hurt the people I love with such a cruel lie. But in the end I saw that there is no other way. The only chance I have to start fresh is if I end my old life once and for all. My past cannot catch up to me if no one ever comes looking for me. And the only way to keep my baby safe from the likes of Arabella is to make her believe it does not exist. I know a day may come when I regret these decisions, but for now the desire to turn over a new leaf is so overwhelming that I feel nothing but relief. As I stroll through the mall, more and more bags accumulating on my arms, I let myself imagine my new life. I dream of my baby, of the home I will build and life I will lead. I dream of being normal, rather than some pathetic victim, an incomplete wolf so broken that I cease to have a place in the pack. I start to feel warm and light, as if I am walking on air. Every purchase I make is another step forward, another puzzle piece bringing me closer to my goal. I do not think about the pain I will cause, only the joy to be found ahead. Then, I see them through the shining glass window of a high-end jewelry store. I can clearly make out Bastion and Arabella bent over a jewelry counter, wide smiles on their faces. Irrational hurt lances through me. After all, here I am daydreaming about faking my death and putting people I love through great pain. Yet I have the temerity to feel affronted by my contract husband, planning his own future with the woman he loves. Then again, love is never rational, and goddess help me. I do love Bastion. I do not know when Arabella was released from the hospital, but she looks perfectly well now. She is beaming, so full of love and beauty that my stomach revolts. Not that this is anything new. These days I'm nauseous more often than not. Perhaps it is the fact that our rejection is still before us. Bastion and I are still married for the time being, and it seems wildly insensitive and disrespectful for them to be publicly advertising their relationship this way. I stride across the atrium in a daze, coming to stand at the entrance of the jewelry store with blazing eyes and flushed cheeks. Please tell me I am not seeing what I think I am. Bastion and Arabella turn toward me in surprise, and I find myself shrinking back, unsure of where I found that sudden wave of confidence. Seline, let me, Bastion. Arabella cuts him off, placing a graceful hand on his arm. After all, jewelry is women's business. My husband's face twists up in concern and confusion, but Arabella is already striding toward me. She links her arm with mine as if we are old friends, pulling me out of the doorway and away from the windows so we won't be overheard. We are still married, you know, I remind her hotly. Yes, you're married. Arabella drawls, for one more day. After that, he's mine. If I were you, I'd let it go before you make things even more uncomfortable than they already are. You've got a lot of nerve, I tell her. First with the stairs, and now this. Are you really so desperate that you cannot wait until the papers are signed? Sweetheart, the moment the papers are signed, Bastion and I are going to be married. We have to have a ring in advance, otherwise we'd have to wait even longer. Arabella croons, and we're done waiting. You've kept us apart long enough. That was never my decision or choice. I argue. What? Like it was mine. She hisses, baring her teeth. I didn't have any more say in this than you did, and it's worse for me. Arabella insists. You might be his mate, but that bond is not a choice. He loves me so much that your bond seems like nothing in comparison. He loves me so much that he is forsaking what nature ordained. I stumble backward, not understanding her strange words. She pursues me, a wolf stalking a rabbit. You've stood in the way of that love. Love so powerful even the goddess cannot break it. She growls. Does that make you proud? Are you happy to know how badly you've ruined our lives? I don't know what you're talking about. I insist. Oh yes you do. She snaps. You know exactly what you've done. And if you think that brat you're carrying can change anything now, you're sorely mistaken. That brat. I repeat harshly, you mean the baby you tried to kill, your husband's child. My anger raises empty threats to my lips. How do you think Bastion would feel if he knew what you tried to do to his heir? Some of Arabella's composure slips, and her blue eyes flash. But he's not going to know, is he, Seline? She retorts. Don't forget you showed your hand. Her claw-like fingers catch my chin, tugging it up so I have to look her in the eye. You don't want him to know. You want to leave Thinde, but you'll never be able to get away if he finds out the truth. Maybe not, but I might be able to show him what a snake you are. I combat, and that's got to be worth something. Pure rage bleeds into Arabella's saccharine expression. If you say so much as one word to him, I will finish what I started in the hospital. She threatens, if you want your baby to live, you'll keep your mouth shut. She growls, and when you leave, you will never come back. Chapter 21. Rejection Day. Day of the ceremony. Seline's point of view. My fingers anxiously trace the flowers embroidered into the bodice of my wedding gown. It's a delicate white confection, so weightless and ethereal I look more like a wood nymph than a bride. I remember the day we chose it, Bastion and I. It was the first dress we found that did not completely overpower my waifish frame 3 years ago. We tried countless others first, but the moment I stepped into the gossamer fabric I knew, and Bastion's face said it all. This is the way of rejection ceremonies. Marriages end as they begin. We will wear the same clothes, meet at the same moonlit altar, with friends and family looking on. We'll even play the same music. Yet instead of vows to love and keep each other, we will vow to part. Instead of exchanging rings, we'll remove them. And instead of shifting to run together beneath the stars, we'll divide, forging new paths in directions of our own choosing. Of course, Bastion and I never ran together in the first place. We walked through the forest hand in hand, a sweet concession for the loss of my wolf. Tonight, I expect he will shift, and I have a fairly good idea where he'll run. Rather, to whom he'll run. I've replayed my conversation with Arabella over and over in my head. At first, I thought I must have misheard her. After all, Bastion himself told me Arabella was his mate. Yet the more I ponder our conversation, the clearer it becomes. Bastion is my mate, or he would have been if I still had Luna. It explains why I always felt connected to him, why he always made me feel safe. Those horrible women at Gabriel's birthday were right. I am too broken to be anything but a burden. My one chance to be whole might have been finding the man the goddess chose for me, but fate had other plans. My mate doesn't want me without my wolf. Who could? Teardrops pool on my lashes, and I suck in a shaky breath, trying to tell myself that one day I might find a wolf who is able to look past my shortcomings. One day I might be enough for someone, somewhere. The tears fall anyway, rolling down my cheeks in gray rivulets of mascara. It doesn't matter if I'm enough for someone else. The only person I want is Bastion, and no matter what I do, or how long I live Sudi, he will never want me. Bastion's point of view. I used to have nightmares about losing Seline. Now those horrible dreams are becoming a reality. In less than an hour, we are going to formally end our marriage and part forever. Axel has been giving me the silent treatment for days, protesting my decision to go through with the ceremony. I'm not any happier about it than he is, but I have to do this for Seline. This is what being an alpha is all about. I remind my stubborn wolf, taking care of others, putting their needs above your own. Being an alpha is also about being in control. He replies grumpily, "Do you feel in control right now?" We both know I don't. I haven't been able to eat or sleep for days. I haven't been able to think about anything other than the fact that I will never get to hold my mate in my arms again. Not only that, I'm going to have to watch her build a life with another wolf die, an idea that not only makes me feel completely unhinged, but positively murderous. So rather than focusing on things that are truly important like Blaze's hunt for Valana wolves or my alpha training, I've been wallowing in grief and fantasizing about winning Seline back. The necklace Arabella helped me pick out is sitting on my dresser, wrapped up in a velvet box and decorative paper. When I bought it, I told myself it was merely a parting gift for Seline, a token of appreciation for our years together and goodwill for the future. But deep down I imagined it might convince her to give me another chance. Ridiculous. Axel chides, apparently feeling very vocal now that he's finally speaking to me again. You think a pretty trinket is going to tell her something 3 years of marriage couldn't? A growl rumbles in my chest. He's right, of course. There's nothing I can do or say that will change things now. It's too late. It was probably too late when we met. Seline's heart belonged to another years and years before I came along. It's time I accept it. I have to let us both move on. With a heavy sigh, I toss the gift box into the trash. Gabriel's point of view. I've always hated wearing suits. If I had it my way, I'd remain in my wolf form day and night. But drafting laws and signing treaties is difficult without thumbs. My fingers tug at the Windsor knot, choking off my air supply, fumbling with the annoying garment. As I read over the rejection agreement in my hand, disappointment and regret churn deep in my belly. This is not the path I hoped my son would walk. His marriage to Seline started on difficult footing, but the struggle was never between them. For all the horror of her past, I truly thought Seline had found peace with Bastion. The sweet little wolf was afraid of her own shadow, but she was never afraid of her mate. And caring for Seline had softened Bastion in so many ways. Watching her heal and witnessing them grow together made Odette and I endlessly happy. We were both shocked speechless when they announced the rejection ceremony. He won't admit it, but I know Bastion is heartbroken. Under any other circumstances, I might be angry at the person responsible for his pain, but I know it isn't Seline's fault. In the end, I suppose Garrick's torture was too much to overcome. If anyone is to blame, it's him, or the goddess herself. How could she allow one of her creations to suffer such cruelty? The terrace curtains rustle, diverting my wolf's attention. I drag my eyes from the document on my desk, eyeing the fluttering fabric curiously. The doors were closed when I entered my office, and no one has entered since. I haven't heard a sound, but an unmistakable draft of cool air wafts through the room. My hackles raise as I scent a strange wolf, my mind racing to understand how anyone could have gotten past my heightened senses. My gaze jumps to the goblet of wine by my computer. But before I can examine it, the curtains part. A shadowy figure emerges in my periphery, illuminated by the dim terrace lanterns. He's tall and thin, dressed in all black and exuding undisguised hostility. Green eyes glow in the darkness, but I can't see anything more of his face. Whatever your complaint, I begin. For it's clear that's what he has. Only cowards hide in the shadows. Be a man and show yourself. Show myself? His voice sounds familiar, yet I can't place it. You mean you don't recognize me, Uncle? My heart skips a beat. Frederick, you look surprised, Gabriel. He laughs humorlessly. I suppose it's no wonder. You probably forgot I existed after you killed my father. I see it all too clearly now. His resemblance to my brother is unmistakable, even without good light. Did it never matter to you that he had a family? I was his family. I remind him sharply. He betrayed me, and he betrayed you and your mother. I can barely hold on to my train of thought. I'm now certain he drugged me, another coward's move. If he truly cared for you, he never would have done anything that might take him away from you. He had only himself to blame. The young man's fists clench at his sides. You really are a heartless bastard. He hisses. I figured anyone who could kill their own flesh and blood would be Seline. But I hadn't imagined you would show so little remorse. You don't know what you're talking about. I snarl. You have no idea how much it hurt me to fight your father. It was the hardest thing I have ever done, or ever will do. I don't believe you. Frederick spits. And what do you mean to do about it? I demand, practically swaying on my feet. Why are you here? I'm here to finish my father's work. The words barely have time to land before he launches into an attack. My foggy brain jerks me out of his path just in time, but I'm too slow to deflect his rebound assault. Claws rip into my back as I stumble forward, triggering the shift. I only transform partway, spinning around to face him before he can sink his teeth into my throat. I launch my body into his, knocking him to the floor and rolling in a vicious tangle of flailing limbs as we both attempt to land blows. He's young and strong, and I am about as agile as a drunk, but he is still no match for me. I've been alpha for longer than he's been alive. I was fighting wars while he was still in diapers. I throw the insolent pup over my head, lunging for him as he bounces across the floor. As one we shift fully, and my wolf takes over. I close my jaws around his hind leg, dragging him yelping and whining over the carpet. Pain dilates his pupils, the black pools slowly eroding his irises to a neon corona. In the light, Frederick's gray fur is so similar to his father's. It takes my breath away. For a moment, my addled mind believes it is my brother beneath me, returned from beyond the grave. A single moment of hesitation is all it takes. I freeze for a fraction of a second, and Frederick's claws tear through my carotid artery. Blood gushes from my body, draining my life in a relentless flood. As thick, coppery liquid fills my mouth, Frederick shifts back to human form, standing over me with a callous grin. You've lost, old man, he announces snidely. And Bastion is next. My growl comes out as a strangled gurgle, and my nephew laughs. His little mate too, and their pup. Confusion furrows my brow, and his laugh becomes an outright cackle. Oh, that's right, Frederick taunts. You don't know. Seline's pregnant. Chapter 22. The alpha is dead. Seline's point of view. Seline, are you ready? Odette is knocking on the dressing room door, her kind voice unusually somber. Yes. I call smoothing my skirts. You can come in. The door pushes open, and my mother-in-law's lovely face peeks inside. She sidles through the narrow opening, approaching me with a wistful expression. Oh, my darling, Odette murmurs bleakly, her eyes shining as she studies my reflection. I really thought you two would make it. I thought we might too, I admit, keeping my gaze high to ward off tears. For a while, her hand closes around mine, squeezing gently. What happened, Seline? She asks gently. All at once, it hits me that I'm not merely losing my husband, but the only parental figures I've known since my mother died. I swipe at an escaped tear. It's what Bastion wants. Odette frowns, the edges of her warm brown eyes crinkling beneath the weight of her drawn brows. She opens her mouth to speak, but before any words can escape, all the blood drains from her face in a frenzied rush, leaving her white as a sheet. Her eyes go wide and her body crumples, bowing and bending against her will. Her mouth gapes open in a breathless gasp, emitting a strangled cry. Odette, I exclaim, catching her by the arms so she does not fall. What's wrong? Her mouth is opening and closing soundlessly, her body trembling beneath my hands. It's Gabriel. Before I can stop her, Odette rips herself from my hold, flying out of the room and down the hall. I race after her, blood rushing in my ears. I've never seen someone look so anguished, so afraid. We pick up a few sentries as we run, everyone jolting into action the moment they see the look on Odette's face. She bursts into Gabriel's office, freezing in the doorway. I know the moment I hear her choked whimper. I do not need to see her stumble back against the doorframe, sinking to the ground with shaking limbs. I do not need to hear the screams that follow, or the weeping. I do not need to see her crawling across the floor on her hands and knees, seeking something just out of sight of the hallway. By the time I reach Odette, she is lying in Gabriel's blood, her body thrown atop his, racked with violent heaving sobs. The alpha stares sightlessly up at the ceiling, his skin a garish shade of gray. I clasped my hand tightly over my mouth, trying to hold back my own grief. I can't fall apart, not when others are hurting so badly. Odette needs me to keep it together. Bastion will need Bastion. I know the guards have already gone for him, but in a fit of irrational panic I try to come up with any possible plan to stop them. He shouldn't have to see this. He shouldn't have to lose his father so young. I wrap myself around Odette, holding her while she cries and praying that it's all a bad dream. Hot, thick blood seeps into my wedding dress, smearing over my skin and pooling beneath our huddled bodies. The stench of death is thick in the air, and I can almost imagine I smell the salt of Odette's tears. The sound of heavy running footsteps meet my ears, and I know my prayers have not been answered. Bastion towers in the doorway, looking suddenly very young despite his intimidating appearance. His silver gaze travels over his father's body. To his mother and me, my lip trembles. I could cry from the look on Bastion's face alone. He looks so lost, a child adrift in a sea of uncertainty. I can see the little boy he once was, the one who looked to his father to hang the moon. He moves forward in a trance, his eyes never leaving his father's body, sinking to his knees by my side. Bastion roars with fury and despair. I watch helplessly as he sinks forward, lowering his head to Gabriel's too still form. his hands clenched in white-knuckled fists. I've never seen Bastion cry. He's come close once or twice, but he's never wept as he does now. The sight of my indomitable husband broken and helpless tips me over the edge. Tears stream from my eyes, and then Bastion is reaching toward me blindly. His arm catches my waist, and he hauls me into his lap, squeezing me like a security blanket while he pulls his mother into his other side. We lie in a tangled heap like this, sobbing and blood-stained, until the pack enforcers arrive. Everything happens in a blur. Aiden is there, grasping Bastion's shoulder and gently telling him we need to move so the investigators can sweep the scene, choking back his grief. Bastion nods, setting me on my feet. I stand protectively at his side while he attempts to rouse Odette, trying to pull her from Garbiel's body as tenderly as possible. She won't budge. She bares her fangs and snarls at her son, clutching her mate's body so tightly her hands shake almost as violently as her quaking shoulders. I slap my hand over my mouth when Bastion growls at Odette with pure alpha authority, causing her body to jolt with shock. I've seen Bastion assert his dominance over countless pack members over the years, in precisely this way. I've experienced it myself on a handful of occasions. But to see it happening to Odette breaks my heart. People are swarming around us on all sides. Council members, enforcers, even Dr. Kane is here. Bastion and I help Odette to her feet, and Aiden asks Dr. Kane to administer a sedative. While the doctor speaks with her, I pull Bastion aside. His silver eyes move up and down my body, taking in the sight of my ruined wedding dress with a dreadful grimace. I take his face in my hands, pulling his attention to my face. I'm going to get her cleaned up and into bed. I explain softly, "Will you be okay?" Bastion's powerful hands clamp down on my hips, his grip so strong I fear I might bruise. His head shakes slightly from right to left, and I think he's going to refuse. Instead, he pulls me into the circle of his arms. "Take care of her for me," he pleads in my ear. I nod, pressing my lips to his cheek. "I promise." Hi. Chew. After washing Gabriel's blood from Odette and tucking her in with the help of the doctor's sleeping pills, I return to the Alpha's office. Gabriel's body has been removed, and though the once cozy space is now full of crime scene tape and evidence markers, it is all but deserted. Only Bastion remains, crumpled at his father's desk, his head cradled in his hands. The man I knew a few hours ago is gone, replaced by a leader with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He looks up when I enter, a questioning expression on his handsome features. "She's asleep." I confirm quietly. He nods grimly, dragging his hand through his unruly hair. "Did the investigators find anything?" I ask hesitantly. "Not yet." Bastion's voice is like gravel. "They couldn't even decipher a scent for the killer said too many people had been in and out of the room to pinpoint anything." I'm already kicking myself for asking the question. Finding the people responsible for the crime is a matter for the future. Lingering on it now is merely a pretense to inject some sense of normalcy into circumstances which are anything but. I close the distance between us and Bastion turns his chair to face me when I'm finally standing in front of him. He pulls me between his legs, gazing up at me with wide, hopeless eyes. "Tell me this isn't real," he begs, fisting his hands at my waist. My throat itches painfully, swelling and throbbing with emotion. "I'm so sorry," I profess tearfully. "I'm so sorry." Bastion closes in on himself, slumping forward until his forehead is flush against my ribs. He wraps his muscular arms around my middle, burying his face in the silk of my bodice and breaking down completely. I soothe him as best I can, making soft shushing sounds and caressing his hair, shoulders, and back. After a while I sink to my knees, framing his tear-stained face in my hands and gazing up at him with all the love I possess. "You need to get cleaned up too," I murmur. "Come on, let me take care of you for once." With an obedient nod, Bastion lets me lead him up to our apartment. I pull him into the bathroom, stripping off both our clothes and disappearing into the steam of a hot shower. I scrub the blood from our skin, wishing the searing water could ease Bastion's sorrow as seamlessly as it washes away dirt and grime. When we finally emerge, I guide my husband to bed, pulling back the covers and tucking him in. As I pull away, Bastion's hand latches onto my wrist, holding me captive. "Will you stay with me tonight?" He pleads, appearing more vulnerable than I have ever seen him. "Please." I thought my heart was broken before, but now it cracks straight down the middle. "Of course," I vow, sliding into the bed beside him. Bastion clings to me so tightly I can hardly breathe. And for a moment I even consider begging him to loosen his hold. However, I abandon the thought as soon as it enters my mind. As horrible as this night is, as badly as I wish I could turn back the clock and prevent all this pain, a small part of me relishes the fact that this incredible, powerful man finds comfort in me. I curl my body around his, enveloping him in my love and affection for what will probably be the last time. Tomorrow he will probably turn to Arabella for consolation, but tonight I am enough. I am enough, and that is all I have ever wanted to be. Chapter 23. Postponing the ceremony. Bastion's point of view. The day after my father's murder, the sun rises, just like it has every morning for eons. Its rays filter through the gauzy curtains, adorning our bedroom windows, announcing dawn's arrival as if this day is no different than the millions which came before. This cannot be. Surely the sun cannot shine on a world where my father does not exist. Surely the earth cannot keep spinning when his life has winked out forever. Yet they do. The world forges on as though nothing has changed, timebeat, oblivious to the loss of one of its most remarkable creations. I wish I could snuff out the dawn as brutally as someone did. My father's soul, all I have left of him now are memories. Every plan we made, every expectation or imagined future is gone. We will never speak again, never go on another hunt or share another laugh. Our relationship is an artifact of the past, an unfinished book whose final chapters will never be written. I cannot bear it. What's worse is I know this is only the beginning. Few wolves outlive their mates by very long. Even when they die young, the grief eats them alive, wasting away their physical forms until there is nothing left. How much longer will I have my mother? How long can she survive without half her soul? The horrible likelihood is that I will soon be without any parents at all. And I'm already losing my own mate. Though the parting may not be as tragic, it will be just as final. My father's death bought me one more night with Seline. She's stretched out on top of me, her breath a warm breeze on my chest, rustling the coarse hair scattered across my pecs. Her serious brow is furrowed, even in sleep, and I gather her close, afraid to wake her but needing to feel her skin on mine. Her lashes flutter, parting to reveal her stunning irises. It takes a moment for the memory of last night to rise to the surface, but I know the moment it does. Her face crumples, leaving sleep completely and replacing the sweet innocence of slumber with heart-rending grief. My pain is reflected so clearly in Seline's eyes, my heart forgets to beat. I was hoping it was all a bad dream. Me too, I admit, running my fingers through the silky blanket of chestnut hair streaming down her bare back. I just want to go back to sleep and stay there until this all goes away. Seline does not tell me it's never going to go away, or that I cannot hide from reality. She simply rests her cheek over my heart and forlornly whispers, "I know." My wolf, who has been swinging like a pendulum between sorrow and fury ever since walking into the Alpha's office last night, quiets ever so slightly. Seline is, and has always been, the only thing that can truly soothe Axel. Listen. I blurt out before I can lose my nerve. I know the ceremony was supposed to be yesterday, but my voice is pure gravel. I can't. It's too much. Her small body, which had gone tense when I started speaking, liquefies. It's all right, Bastion. The ceremony can wait until you're ready. Axel and I relax in unison. But my relief is only temporary. There is one very large problem with her concession. I'm never going to be ready, tend, wed. Seline's point of view. In a matter of days, Odette has gone from a beautiful, vivacious she-wolf to an empty shell, a shadow of her former self. Bastion is scarcely better. After emerging from our apartment the day after the attack, the Elder Council formally recognized him as Alpha, pushing him deeper into shock and confusion. Though we all knew Bastion was next in line for the role, pack leadership had been the farthest thing from our minds in the wake of the murder. It seemed distasteful and disrespectful to revoke the title from Gabriel so quickly. But the council was determined there should not be any lapses in governance. Now, instead of taking time to grieve with his family, Bastion is trying to balance running the pack with overseeing the murder investigation, planning his father's funeral, and caring for his mother. I help him as much as I can, especially with Odette and the memorial, but there are simply not enough hours in the day to get everything done. Bastion barely leaves his office, and I've heard him snarling at Aiden and Donovan more than once when they've attempted to coax him into taking a break. The two betas have become so desperate, they decided to call in reinforcements, worried that if he doesn't stop soon he'll collapse. Unfortunately, for me, I am the reinforcements. We're in the kitchen and the huge men are hovering over me, whispering instructions while I balance a silver serving tray in my arms. Don't take no for an answer. Aiden is saying, you don't have to be forceful, just persistent. Cry, if you have to. Donovan adds, and maintain physical contact. Aiden interjects, it will keep him calm. Honestly, they're speaking about Bastion as if he's a wild bear. Only with great effort do I keep my eyes from rolling into the back of my head. You do know we've been married 3 years, right? The betas exchange a glance. Yes, I know how to handle my husband. I state simply, making a shooing motion so they'll clear the way to the hall. They do as instructed, and within minutes I'm outside the office door. Bastion doesn't look up when I enter. His attention is glued to a stack of papers splayed out on the mahogany desk. I set the dinner tray on the coffee table and move to his side. Bastion reaches out blindly, snagging my hand and bringing it to his lips while he reads. Thank you, sweetheart. Will you eat with me? I request softly. I wish I could, baby. He replies immediately, maybe tomorrow. Pulling my hand from his, I adopt my most intimidating pose, locking my hands on my hips. Bastion, you need to eat something. When I reach a stopping point, I will, he lies. Still not looking at me, you haven't reached a stopping point in 3 days. I remind him, you've got to take a break. Bastion sighs heavily. Not right now, Seline. When? When I can, he evades. For the first time in my memory, I summon a growl. It's weak and not the least bit intimidating. Rumbling pitifully in my chest like distant thunder soven, very distant. Bastion freezes, pulling his gaze from his work for the first time since I entered. His silver eyes pierce straight through me. Did you just growl at me, little wolf? I try to keep my gaze level with his, but instead find it skittering back and forth as I put my foot down. You need to eat. Bastion drags his eyes down my body to the offending foot, then back up to my flushed face. Though his countenance is wholly disapproving, I'm certain I see the corner of his mouth twitch, the first glimmer of light he's shown in days. Is that any way to speak to your alpha? He purrs ominously. I notch my chin up. You're not my alpha right now. You're my husband. Bastion unfolds from his chair, rising up and up until he's looming over me in all his glory. He looks angry, but his voice is warm. I'm always your alpha, he declares firmly. But since you seem to need reminding, Father T, bring the tray. I can't pull my eyes away from his. What? You wanted me to eat. Bastion replies simply, bring the tray. Logic trickles into my brain, and I slowly retrieve the dinner tray, bringing it over to his desk and setting it down on a freshly cleared spot. I lift the lid and turn to leave, but Bastion loops an arm around my middle and pulls me into his lap. Despite my initial shock, I can't help but sink into his arms, even as he hands me a fork. I clasp the silver implement between my fingers, shooting him a bewildered look. I'm not the one who needs to eat, Bastion agrees. You're not. After a moment, it occurs to me that he wants me to feed him. He confirms it with an arched brow and smothered grin. Be a good little wolf and show your alpha you haven't forgotten your place. Blushing scarlet, I spear a morsel of steak from the overloaded plate in front of us and raise it to his lips. His sharp teeth close around the tines, pulling the bloody red meat free and slowly chewing. His heated gaze never leaves mine, and I find it increasingly difficult to weather the weight of his stare. Feeding him this way is oddly intimate, as well as making me feel completely at his mercy. Even so, pride swells in my chest that I've succeeded in getting some food in his stomach where the others failed. Not for the first time, I wonder where Arabella is in all this spin. I suppose it would be inappropriate for her to be here when Bastion and I are still technically married. It wouldn't look good in front of the pack. About halfway through the meal, Bastion relents, stealing the silverware from my fingers. I think he's going to continue eating on his own, but instead he offers me the next bite of food. After a moment of hesitation, I snag the offering between my teeth, savoring the juicy meat and wondering how the tables turned so quickly. There's no doubt Bastion still holds the power, but being served this way makes me feel warm all the way down to my toes. When the plate is finally empty, I settle back against Bastion, sated and drowsy. The baby is making me sleep constantly, but I've been resisting as much as possible over the last few days. Of course, the added bonus of dozing on my husband is that it might force him to rest too. Take that big bad wolf. Just as I'm drifting off, I catch sight of a brightly colored flare peeking out from beneath the pile of papers on Bastion's desk. It's easily within reach, and I pull it from the stack. What's this? Bastion goes rigid, and a moment later I understand why. The paper in my hand is an advertisement for a bounty being offered by the alpha of the Calypso Pack. Blaze Denizen, wanted. Valana wolves of all ages, cash reward. $1 million for reliable intelligence. Chapter 24. The Funeral. Selene's point of view. What is this? I choke, my heart racing as I stare down at the reward flare. Nothing. Bastion reaches for the paper, but I lean back over the armrest until I'm on the verge of falling. I may not be able to extend my arms past his reach, but I trust he'll choose catching me over reclaiming the page. Luckily, he does exactly that, clamping his hands on my hips to keep me anchored while I twist my body away from him. It's clearly something. Seline. Stop that, he admonishes, pulling me back into the chair. You're going to hurt yourself. With a huff I obey, waving the flyer in front of his nose. How long have you known about this? Where did you find it? How long has this been going on? Bastion sighs. Sweetheart, this is why I didn't tell you. I didn't want you to worry for nothing. I'm handling it. If it were nothing, you wouldn't need to handle it. I reason sharply, squirming to escape his lap and failing. And what exactly does that mean? How in the goddess's name are you planning to contain this? It already made it this far. How do you know someone hasn't already reported me? Bastion is wrapped around me like a blanket, using the pressure of his limbs to soothe me despite the fact that I very much do not want to be soothed. We didn't find this here. It was in the Far East outside of Calypso territory, he explains, not letting up. I promise. No one has reported you, and we're setting up a shadow system so that we can intercept any reports from this part of the continent. How did you find it if it was so far away? I question sulkily. Bastion clears his throat evasively. We have spies. Spies? I repeat. We have spies on the Calypso Pack. Yes. Bastion confesses. I sent them before we got married. My heart feels like it's imploding. All of a sudden, Bastion's request to postpone the rejection ceremony and Arabella's distance makes a lot more sense. Moving forward with the ceremony wouldn't have been appropriate amidst the murder. And I do believe Bastion was too overwhelmed to focus on it. But would we be delaying it indefinitely if it were not for this threat? No matter what he says, I know Bastion considers this a serious danger 7. The fact that he hid it speaks volumes, and it provides an extremely strong motive to keep me close. Bastion considers everyone in the pack his responsibility, but especially me. Me, the mate the pack failed to protect as a child and ended up permanently disabled as a result. How long have you known about this? I croak. A few days. Bastion confesses grimly. Gabriel died a few days ago too. Would we have made it to the altar if he hadn't been murdered? I want to ask him this very question, but I'm too afraid to hear the answer. What difference would it make? None of this changes the fact that he doesn't want me, that this entire marriage has been a sham. What about the others? I inquire instead. The other Valanas. Bastion frowns. There are precious few Valanas left, but every one of those precious few are in danger. I insist. Blaze only needs one. He assents with a single firm nod. Perhaps. But you are the one I'm concerned with protecting. So what? If they aren't your responsibility, they don't matter, I exclaim, looking up into my husband's molten eyes. His jaw twitches, a hard edge in his expression I've rarely seen directed at me. His cozy embrace feels suddenly cold, and I'm at a loss to understand what's going on inside his head, if that's the way you want to look at it. Bastion growls. Yes. I lurch out of his lap, and he doesn't try to stop me. I stalk from the room without retrieving the dinner tray, tossing a curt acknowledgement to the betas hovering outside the office like mother hens. He's fed. Is everything all right? Aiden calls after me. I don't bother answering. I continue up to the apartment a whirl with hurt and confusion. I lock myself in for the rest of the night, hoping Bastion will come to bed, but unsurprised when I wake up as I went to sleep soothed alone. Said. Ho. Bastion's point of view. The morning of my father's memorial service begins with a storm. Apparently answering my complaints about sunshine, the goddess sends a gale through Elysium, dropping the temperature by 10 degrees and dumping buckets of rain over the city. Thankfully, there is no thunder or lightning to frighten Seline. Only fat gray clouds and cascading water. My little wolf stands on my right, beautiful and somber in a simple morning gown. My mother frames my other side, a dark veil over her face. We all wear the deep bottle green of the Nova pack. The same color donned by nearly every member of the pack. They are all spread out around us, decked out head to toe in grim formal wear and clutching umbrellas. Tonight we will shed it all and take to the forest, but for the time being we pay our respects with all the pomp and ceremony the Alpha deserves. Beyond the pack members, visitors from near and far gather. The Eros and Vega pack leaders, as well as dignitaries and representatives from other shifter communities across the continent. The funeral pyre is shielded by a vaulted tent, which will only be lifted when the fire is lit and the flames strong enough to withstand the rain. My father's body lays peacefully at its apex, lovingly shrouded in flags bearing the crests of the Novapac, Elysium, and the Durand family. Seline's tiny hand squeezes mine just as I fear I might begin to cry again, and I pull strength from my sweet wife. We haven't yet settled our argument about the reward flyer. But her support hasn't waned. I couldn't tell Seline the horrible thoughts that ran through my head when she mentioned the possibility of other Vallana wolves being turned into Blaze. They were too horrible. I didn't truly mean them. I know in my heart I would never sacrifice one innocent life for another. But logic is cruel, and I'm ashamed to admit that I did consider the advantage another wolf being caught would give Seline. Denizen wouldn't need to keep looking after he found what he wanted. I shove the unforgivable thoughts away, focusing on the present, as the pyre ignites color flashes in the corner of my eye, and not the ombre yellow, orange and red of fire. Instead, the bright blue hues of the Gemini pack fills my periphery, sending ice through my veins. The Gemini pack have been our enemies since before I was born. Under different circumstances, their presence might be understandable, but we haven't had any contact with them in years. The last time we met, they were aiding and abetting my uncle's coup attempt. I swear under my breath, squeezing my mother's shoulders as she weeps. The Gemini leaders circle the perimeter of the crowd, the unmistakable scent of strange wolves permeating through the masses. One by one heads turn towards the interlopers, and disgruntled mutters begin sweeping through the assembly. My hackles raise, but I refuse to give them the response they're so clearly seeking. Flames consume my father's body, transforming him for the last time Devon. Not between man and wolf, but being and spirit Thefendi, the final transition between this world and the next. As I watch his physical form splinter and dissolve, the last vestiges of my family around me, I'm struck once again of all the unwelcome changes in my life. The first threads of discord unfurl while I'm still caught up in my thoughts. Rolling through the sea of wolves like savage ripples, muted growls gradually evolve into vicious snaps and barks, before silk and wool rend and tear as formal clothing is replaced with fur and claws. Within moments half the attendees have shifted, the remainder scattering away from the quickly boiling conflict. I look helplessly between Mom and Seline before shoving them both into Aiden's waiting arms. Get them back to the pack house, I order, gesturing to my father's number 2, Donovan. With me. I smell the first blood before it hits the ground, charging into the unfolding fight without pausing to shift. I refuse to lend any credibility to this chaos. Instead, I storm through the battling factions on 2 legs, ripping wolves off of one another by the scruffs of their necks and throwing them across the rain-soaked lawn. Together with Donovan and the Nova enforcers, I pull the sweat and blood-stained fighters apart, clearing a wide path through the crowd until I've reached the heart of the brawl. In the center of it all, a trio of navy-clad men wait, chests heaving with barely disguised rage. The Gemini Alpha Rapheth Everhart is twice my age, gray-haired and grizzled as an old boot. He looks as if he has been to hell and back, and I have to respect his imposing stature. When we near, damp smoke clogging the air at our backs, he roars. What is the meaning of this, Durand? Funny, I came to ask you that exact question. I snarl. I should think that would be obvious. The Alpha hisses, after all you invited us. Chapter 25. The Elder Council. Bastion's point of view. What the hell are you talking about? I hiss. Hey. I was surprised myself. Raph answers snidely. I thought you were finally ready to bury the hatchet. But from the looks of it, you Novas are every bit as inbred and backward as I always thought. Can't even throw a funeral without things devolving to bedlam. I brush off his insults. No one invited you, Everhart. I announce, mentally tracking my enforcers as they covertly move in, surrounding our assailants on all sides. I beg to differ. Raph quips, pulling an embossed parchment from his jacket and extending toward me. Keeping one eye on the goading alpha, I accept the paper. Unrolling it swiftly and scanning the contents within. Sure enough, it contains an exact copy of the official invitations sent around to various packs and allies over the last few days, complete with my signature. I pass the parchment to Donovan. Unfortunately, I must tell you that this invitation is not genuine. I force the words out between clenched teeth. It's true, I did not sign any invitations to the Gemini pack, but someone has clearly been at work sowing the seeds of chaos. It has your signature, Durand. Raph reminds me coolly. A forgery. I clarify. I needn't remind you that my father was murdered. It can't come as any surprise that there are players at large seeking to harm the Nova Pack. Unfortunately, it seems you are a pawn in their schemes. Or an accomplice. Axel interjects, thoroughly put out not to be in the driver's seat. TSK, Raph chides. It sounds to me like you don't have control of your pack. He adopts a theatrical pout. I suppose that's what happens when you leave a pup in charge. Enough with the diplomacy, Axel grumbles. Let me take a bite out of this bastard. I do that, and I give him exactly what he wants. I argue back. You have my word, we'll get to the bottom of this. I vow ominously. All those responsible will pay. You and your men are free to leave Thydeen for the time being. Rafe narrows his eyes at my patronizing tone, belatedly scanning the group around us and discovering the counter-moves I deployed while we spoke. Understanding sours his expression. He could order an attack now, if he had a death wish. We have them surrounded, a man within throat-ripping distance of his every last envoy. The Gemini Alpha offers me a deferential nod, though his eyes are full of malice. Until we meet again, Durand. I do not offer him the same courtesy, simply acknowledging his name as he turns away. Everhart. When I'm certain the Gemini wolves are out of hearing distance, I turn to Donovan. Send sentries to follow them out of the territory. Make sure they're out, and keep tails on them. I want to know if they're meeting with anyone from the pack. I growl, and find out where on the goddess's green earth that invitation came from. Donovan takes his marching orders proudly, showing me the same esteem he always afforded my father. Yes, Alpha. And how? Seline's point of view. That's ridiculous. I object. They can't blame you for what happened. The council knows Gabriel's death was foul play. They must know this was malicious tooth-eye, not incompetence. Bastion is pacing around his office, slowly wearing a hole in the carpet. The fact is I didn't see the Geminis coming. He grouses, dragging a hand through his hair. They're right to question me. I fucked up. Indignance floods me on behalf of my husband. It isn't fair for the elder council to judge him so harshly. You were grieving. Bastion huffs out a weary laugh, pausing in front of me to stroke my cheek. Alphas don't have the luxury of personal feelings. Little wolf. The pack has to come first 100% of the time. His handsome features seem to have aged years over the last week. There's no excuse for letting enemies through our defenses. That is an unreasonable standard. I insist, one to which they would never hold themselves. You're right. Bastion agrees. They wouldn't, but they aren't Alpha. I latch onto his hand when he tries to pull away, convincing him to sink onto the sofa beside me. These are the consequences of so much power. There's no end to the responsibility and no room for error. How is anyone supposed to live up to that? I demand. How are you supposed to have a life if you can never take your eye off the pack? It's not about living up to it, or fulfilling my own wants. Bastion reminds me, I have the strength to lead, so I will Timviduen because I love this pack. That's all there is to it. Now that Bastion has relaxed next to me, my own energy overflows in anxious flutterings. That's the other thing I don't understand. I gripe. Does the council honestly think there is anyone in the pack more capable than you? Stronger than you? I wriggle half-heartedly as Bastion tugs my body on top of his, propping my elbows on his chest and resting my chin in the cradle of my hands. What's the point of trying you when no one else is fit to be alpha? That's exactly why we have them. Bastion sighs, petting me absent-mindedly, to give challengers the opportunity to step forward and make a claim for leadership. If no one does, it goes on the record as a public censure, so that future challengers can drag it back up years later to smear your good name. I complain, my musings taking a decidedly vindictive turn. I'd like to dig up every mistake the council members ever made when they were young and rub them in their wrinkled faces. To my surprise, Bastion laughs, the vibrations shaking my body fiercely. Goodness, I had no idea you were such a vengeful little thing. He teases, where have you been hiding all this ferocity, baby? I shrug. I haven't had a reason to channel it before. Well, I'm honored you tapped into it for my sake. Bastion grins, pulling me up for a kiss. In moments like this, I can almost forget everything that's happened between us. All the pain and rejection, the pain and loss. I can almost forget he doesn't want me. I can almost pretend we have a future. It won't be long before reality sets in again. So rather than dwelling on everything that cannot be, I throw myself into the moment, pretending with every fiber of my being that this moment and all this affection will never end. My mother's haunted face stares at me through the crowd, her eyes red-rimmed and once golden skin pallid. Of anyone, the hearing has been hardest on her. Yet, as twisted as it probably sounds, I think my struggles have been good for her. The Inquisition has helped keep her in the present, and supporting me has given her some purpose in all this uncertainty. I don't know if I should be guilty for wanting to keep her here without her mate or not, but I know I'm not ready to lose her too. Perhaps it's selfish, expecting her to find a reason to carry on without her mate. After all, I'm not sure I would want to live in a world where Seline no longer existed. The grief assails me at the strangest of times. Sometimes it feels as if nothing which has happened over the last week is real. Others, the truth of my circumstances feels so overwhelming I can't even draw breath. Now, as I stare down the Elder Council, weathering hours of questions about my fitness to rule the pack, I want nothing more than to turn back the clock and beg my father for advice. Forgive us, Bastion, but you've been alpha for less than a week, and we've already borne an attack on Nova territory. The same pack elder has been droning on for the better part of an hour, litigating every last moment of the Gemini intrusion during my father's funeral. It's true. You neutralized the threat, but the fact remains the threat should never have gotten through our defenses in the first place. Why should the people of Elysium maintain faith in you as a leader when this is what your brief tenure has granted us? Esteemed council members, I begin, making no attempt to withhold the innate alpha authority of my tone. I cannot deny that the appearance of the Gemini contingent at the Alpha's memorial was unexpected and extremely unfortunate. I circle on the spot directly my words now at the assembled pack. They should never have made it past our borders, and I take full responsibility for that lapse. However, I continue, despite my best efforts. I am just a man. I cannot see the future, and I am not immune to grief. And like all men, I make mistakes. I concede, returning my attention to the council. I take the security oversight extremely seriously, and plan on doing everything in my power to prevent such failures in the future. But there can be no denying we are under threat. The Alpha was murdered in his own office. In his own home. My mother flinches with every word. And I'm eternally grateful Seline is there to wrap her in a hug. This is not just a threat to my family. It is a threat to the entire pack. I growl. Whoever did this came onto our territory and saw fit to inflict violence at the highest levels. Heads nod in my periphery, giving me hope that my words are landing with the people if not the council. I want what is best for the Novas. I always have, and always will. So if there is anyone out there who believes they can do a better job defending us, then I welcome your challenge. I extend my arms, circling on the spot, as I survey the assembled audience. If any among you think you have what it takes to lead, speak now, make me earn my place, or prove yourself more worthy. Behind me, the council murmurs amongst themselves, too quietly for me to decipher their words. Finally, the head counselor raises his voice above the din. Well, are there any challengers? Chapter 26. The Weak Link. Seline's point of view. I glance around the council chambers anxiously, wondering if anyone will step forward to challenge Bastion for control of the pack. The council can't force him to step down as alpha, but if he loses a fight to a stronger wolf, he won't have a choice. I doubt there is anyone in Elysium strong enough to take on my husband. But this isn't only about winning. Perception is everything. Whether or not someone can actually succeed, pack members challenging Bastion means they've lost confidence in his leadership. Seconds drag on like hours, mutters swarming like angry bees as Bastion turns on the spot, staring down the complainers until the chamber finally falls silent. I breathe a sigh of relief. Whatever they might say behind closed doors, when push comes to shove, no one is brave enough to actually take on the alpha. Once he's certain no one is going to speak up, Bastion turns back to the council. There you have it, gentlemen. You may not agree with my decisions, and questioning them is your right as advisors to this government. But until another Novan is strong enough to take my place, I am your alpha. His deep voice echoes around the room. You can work with me, or you can continue working against me, but I guarantee you will not like the results if you do. A collective shiver works its way around the room, and I feel my own spine tremble. I've never seen Bastion release so much unchecked power, except perhaps when he faced down the Geminis. However, it hadn't been directed at the pack then, and it certainly is now. Is that a threat? One of the counselors interjects, tacking on a nervous "sir" at the end. Take it however you like. The alpha replies cryptically, I'm merely presenting the reality of your situation. The head elder straightens up determinedly, his gray hair practically standing on end despite his facade of confidence. And what about your reality, alpha? He inquires. Do you intend to lead the women of this pack as well as the men? Color flushes my cheeks as heads turn in my direction. The man was smart enough not to say it outright, but everyone knows he's talking about my defect. Though alphas have equal authority over all pack members, their mates are traditionally de facto leaders of the she-wolves. I am not. And I never will be. You cannot lead wolves if you don't have a wolf of your own. Bastion growls, and the elder shrinks in his seat. I suggest you retract that question, counselor. Unfortunately, another counselor speaks up in his colleague's stead. Forgive me, Alpha, but Gregor's question concerns us all. The fact is that we need strength in all our leaders. Bethiving a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Bastion's eyes glow silver, and I see his hands twitching as if he's fighting to keep his claws retracted. His brawny arm jerks up, one livid finger pointing in my direction. My wife has survived things no one else in this room ever could, civvy myself included. He snarls, tearing off his shirt. His breath is coming in heavy pants, his body pushed to the brink by the effort of holding his wolf back. He throws out both arms now, drawing attention to his bare abdomen, a swath of rippling muscles covered in battle scars. Why is it you look at my scars and see strength, but find only weakness in hers? At first, I don't think anyone will have the courage to respond, but after a few tense beats, the oldest counselor rises to his feet. The difference is that your scars healed, and forgive me. But Seline's never will. His words drive into my chest like the sharpest knife. It's not her fault too. No one is saying that to be, but the bottom line is that a shifter without their animal cannot protect themselves, let alone a pack. She is not a suitable mate for an alpha. How'd? Weth, I can't believe you would stay after what they did to you. Drake's increasingly familiar voice filters through my cell phone. We haven't spoken since Gabriel's funeral, and at the time we hadn't the opportunity to discuss anything personal. Catching him up has been difficult in a house full of shifters with wolf hearing. I've finally secluded myself on the terrace, leaning against the railing and constantly scanning my surroundings for eavesdroppers. Bastion needs me. I sigh. The council was, well, they were awful. I admit, my stomach roiling at the memory alone. But he stood up for me, Suri. Despite everything that's happened between us. He stood up for me even though he doesn't want me. I owe him the same loyalty. That's your heart talking, Seline. Drake cautions, not your head. When I don't answer, he presses on. This man wanted nothing to do with you last week. But when something goes wrong for him, he expects you to drop everything to help. That isn't loyalty, it's self-serving manipulation. Drake, I know you're concerned, but please trust that I know my husband slightly better than you do. I say, Bastion is the least selfish person I've ever met. Fine, he concedes. But how long is it going to last this time? How long before he throws you over again? He's going to stop needing you eventually, especially with the pack pressuring him to do something he already wanted. The truth of his words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I slide down onto the ground as he continues. You told me Bastion finding out about the baby is the last thing you want to happen. Right? Yes. I confirm. Well, by my estimate, you've only got one more week before he sends it on you. Drake asserts. So you need to decide what's more important, supporting a man who doesn't love you, or claiming freedom for yourself and your child. Tears burn in my eyes. Maybe there's a way to mask the scent. I'm grasping at straws and I know it. I'll go see the doctor tomorrow. Maybe he can help. I can practically hear Drake shaking his head. That's a band-aid at best. What happens when you start showing? That won't be for another month or so. I reply, because my morning sickness is so bad the doctor actually said I was more likely to lose weight than gain it. Frustration is evident in his voice now. It's your decision, Seline, and I will help you whatever you choose, but please think about what I've said. This is too important to risk. Thank you, Drake. I exhale, feeling considerably sadder than when I made the call, but slightly less stressed. I promise I'll think about it. Good. He answers warmly. I only want what's best for you. Bastion's point of view. A knock on the door pulls my attention from the crime reports in my hands, and I call out for Aiden to enter. I don't need to look up to know it's him. I smelled him when he arrived 20 minutes ago, and have been listening to his distinct footsteps of him pacing outside my door ever since. You going to tell me why you've been hovering outside my office for almost half an hour? I wonder aloud. Aiden clears his throat. We have a problem. Now I do look up. What kind of problem? His lips tighten to a straight line. There are rumors going around the city about the Alpha's death. It seems word got out about the secret tunnel. How? I demand. The only people who knew about that were us and the enforcement investigators. Well, Aiden reasons. The killer knows too. So, I speak the words slowly forming in my thoughts. You think they might have put the information out there so that the enforcers would be able to use it as an indication of guilt in interrogations, or to undermine you? Aiden theorizes with obvious agitation. The rumors. People are saying it had to be an inside job tumbed, because only the Alpha's family knew about the escape passage. An inside job. I repeat, meaning me Subi because I stand to gain the most from his death. My beta, tips his head in confirmation. Why would I need to use an escape tunnel to break into my own house? I ask through clenched fangs. Maybe it wasn't about getting in. Maybe it was about not being seen. He suggests. There are security cameras all over the place, which I could disable if I wanted to commit murder. I growl, it makes no sense. Yes. Well, we both know truth and logic don't mean a damn when it comes to gossip. He remarks solemnly, first I'm unfit because a forged memorial invitation was sent to the Geminis. I recount, bracing my hands on my desk and fantasizing about sweeping everything on its surface to the ground. Then I'm unfit because my mate doesn't have a wolf, and now I'm a murderer. I'm afraid we're in the middle of a game. No one told us we were playing. Aiden says, agreeing with my unspoken suspicions, clearly, your father wasn't the killer's only target. All right. I try to shake the bloodthirsty thoughts from my mind and summon some rationality. So who are we playing against, and what the hell is their next move going to be? Chapter 27. My husband has me followed. Celine's point of view. I need to promise me you'll be careful. Bastion's oversized hands are framing my cheeks, his metallic eyes boring into my own. I grasp his wrists, my small hands only stretching halfway around them. I'm just going to the store, Bastion. His brow furrows even deeper than it already was. Maybe Donovan should go with you. Or better yet, we can send one of the maids instead. I'm perfectly capable of buying groceries without a babysitter. I assure him in my sweetest voice. As I untangle myself from his grasp, I add, are you really this concerned about the reward flyer? I just want you to be safe, he deflects. Things have been crazy around here lately. It does not escape my notice that he didn't actually answer my question. I narrow my eyes. Did something happen? Did somebody report me to your false tip line? Number Bastion promises firmly. I'm just uneasy about everything that's happened with the pack. Whatever comfort I gained from his direct no disappears with the second part of his answer. There's nothing suspicious about it. Per se, something simply feels off deep in my bones. What aren't you telling me? If I needed confirmation he's hiding something, his immediate nothing provides it. Okay. Then explain to me why you were okay with me going to the park alone 3 days ago. But now I can't set foot out of the house, I inquire. Of course you can set foot out of the house. He sighs. It's simply that the store is crowded this time of day, and I don't want you to be harassed about the hearing. In truth, I would be worried about it to Fendi. If I was actually going to the store. I'll be okay. I insist. Sticks and stones, remember. Bastion is still grumbling under his breath when I leave, and once more, the strangest sensation overcomes me as I round the corner. It feels like a strange tingling in my belly, like my body is trying to tell me something my brain can't sense. Is this what shifters mean when they talk about instincts and gut feelings? On the off chance it is, I tiptoe over to the vent further along the corridor. I learned early on that this air duct connects to Bastion's office. If you stand in precisely the right place, you can hear people speaking inside as if they are standing next to you. My tack pays off when Bastion's low voice carries to me a moment later. Don, Celine's about to leave for the store. I want you to follow her. He must be on the phone. There's a pause, then he continues. Yes, I want guards on her 24/7 if she's not in this house. Getting to the hospital undetected is not easy. Donovan, as it turns out, is quite a skilled stalker. I have to circle 2 parking garages and run a red light to ditch him. Luckily, I also remembered to turn off my phone, as well as the tracking built into the car. I'm going to be in trouble when I get home, but not as much trouble as Bastion. After I ditched Donovan and the sheer inconvenience of his order waned, the outrage rose up to take its place, though I'm not sure what's going on. It's clear Bastion lied to my face about whatever threat I face, and further saw fit to invade my privacy by having me followed without my consent. More concerning still, Bastion having a constant guard on me is extremely inconvenient when I am trying to hide such a large secret. What happens if Drake is correct, and I decide leaving was the right plan after all? How in the goddess's name will I get away? By the time I arrive at Dr. Kane's office, I'm so worked up that my blood pressure is through the roof, and the nurse makes me sit and do breathing exercises for 10 minutes before retaking it. When Dr. Kane enters the exam room with a wide smile and begins putting on surgical gloves, I stop him. I'm not here for an exam. He pauses his movements, looking at me curiously. Oh, you were really helpful when I was here before. I begin earnestly praying he'll take pity on me. So I was hoping you might be willing to help me again now. Though he seems curious, he doesn't seem cold or annoyed. What is it you need, Mrs. Durand? I want to know if there is anything you can prescribe me. I trail off, unable to find the words. To what? He prompts. It's okay. Everything we say in here is confidential, and I promise there's nothing you can ask that I haven't heard before. Is there a drug that can mask the scent of my pregnancy hormones? I blurt, if I don't want people to know, so they can't smell it on me. Dr. Kane purses his lips, taking a seat next to the exam bed. Mrs. Durand, I'm going to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me. All right. I agree, nervously. I'm obligated by law to report cases of abuse if I suspect it, and after your visit last time and now this. It's clear something is not right in your marriage. Now, I understand your husband is the alpha. He pauses, looking guilty for a moment. I should have said earlier I'm very sorry for your recent loss. I barely get in a thank you before he goes on, so I realize reporting it isn't really an option. But if you aren't safe, we can find another way to get you help, he concludes. Now, Seline, are you unsafe physically or mentally in your home? No, I exclaim. Bastion wouldn't ever hurt me, not in a million years, I vow. I have my own reasons for wanting to hide the pregnancy ones I'd prefer to keep private if that's okay. Of course, Dr. Kane says, relaxing. I apologize, but I had to ask. Not at all. It's good you ask. It shows you care for your patients. Thank you. He smiles widely. Now to answer your question. Yes, there is something I can give you to mask the scent of the hormones, but it's not exactly available on the open market if you know what I mean. I frown. Is it legal? Perfectly. It's just not something for which there's a commercial market so it doesn't get produced as a pill or shot. He explains, it's a tea, a fairly unpleasant one, and you'll have to drink it every day. That should go well with my morning sickness. I mutter sardonically, now that I can prescribe something for. Dr. Kane offers with a twinkle in his eye. For the first time all day I feel like smiling. Dr. Kane, you're a lifesaver. Why? When I get home, I sneak up the back stairs to the apartment, a few grocery bags in my hands to maintain my cover story. I slip inside as silently as I can, sweeping my eyes through the cozy rooms to confirm. I'm alone, sighing with relief. I deposit the groceries on the kitchen counter and begin unpacking. I have less than 30 seconds of peace before a guttural voice sounds behind me. First lesson in sneaking around, little wolf. I spin around to find Bastion emerging from behind the front door. Always clear your corners. My jaw drops and my mind struggles to decide whether to focus on his presence or the oddity of his hiding spot. Were you waiting there the whole time I was gone? Sweetheart, he says, in a tone that implies anything but sweetness. I heard you the moment you drove up. I cross my arms over my chest. Then I presume you came up here to apologize. His claws shoot out so quickly I almost miss it in a blink. Whoops, me apologize, he snaps. I shift from foot to foot, my heart beginning to pound uncomfortably hard. You lied to me, and then you had your men stalk me. I had my men guard you, Bastion rumbles thunderously, and you ran away from them and deliberately put yourself in danger. What danger, Bastion? I challenge. I know you're not having me followed 24/7 because of petty women's harassment. He prowls forward with a lethal glare. Take your pick, Seline. 2 weeks ago my father was murdered in this house, and we have no idea who did it or why. He lists off his fingers. The pack is against you, and Goddess knows what lengths those petty women's might do to get you out of the way. Oh, and there's a psychopath looking for you, so he can drain and drink your blood like you're a human juice box. Images of Garrick shouting and raging at me burst across my vision, and I cower away from Bastion, stumbling over my own 2 feet. He catches me before I fall, but I flinch at his touch, whimpering in fear. Swearing under his breath, Bastion sweeps my body into his arms. I'm sorry, he breathes, snuggling me close. I'm sorry, little wolf. I didn't mean to yell, Bastion coos, shushing me gently. You just scared me. I relax into his arms, my fear receding as quickly as it came. Yet a kernel of doubt remains in my heart. Bastion has never raised his voice at me like this before. He knows shouting and loud noises trigger me, and no matter what has happened in the past, he's always kept his temper in check. Always. What's more, he doesn't seem to think he did anything wrong, and I don't think I can make him understand that his behavior wasn't okay. As far as he's concerned, my safety gives him permission to use any means and go to any lengths to protect me, no matter how I feel or what I want. Even as I accept his pets and kisses, embracing the affection and comfort, I can't help but feel something was broken between us today. And I don't think it can be fixed. Chapter 28. The Equinox Disaster. Bastion's point of view, the autumn equinox has always been my favorite holiday. Above All Souls' Night, the summer solstice and Yuletide, the equinox is the best day of the year. Every September Elysium is overtaken by a sprawling festival, celebrating the event, combining centuries, old rites and traditions, with modern revelry and entertainment. The changing of the seasons has always been sacred to shifters. Our power is always strongest on the nights the goddess turns the wheel of the world, summoning so much magic it overflows into all of creation, more than any year of my life so far. This autumn celebration must go well. It's my first year as Alpha, and even though my father oversaw most of the planning, the actual event is happening on my watch. With everything that has happened in the last few weeks, I desperately need some good PR with the pack. And a superb equinox would go a long way to achieving that. On the other hand, if something goes wrong, it will be a literal disaster. The pack won't consider a botched festival a bad party. They will consider it an affront to our most cherished heritage and hallowed customs. That cannot happen. There are already murderers and saboteurs running around my city wreaking havoc. The last thing I need is to offend the goddess on top of it. However, things are already off to a less than ideal start. Major partners my father contracted to sponsor the festival have pulled out at the last minute. And it seems like everywhere I look, some new crisis pops up. I know event planning is chaotic at times, but things are falling apart too suddenly, frequently and majorly. Every last step is a challenge, and I'm certain the same person who has been making my life so difficult lately is responsible. Despite everything, we've managed to make it to festival night without any catastrophes. And I plan to enjoy it with my family, Swanton, small as it may be. This was always your father's favorite night too. My mother sniffled, straightening my already straight tie. We're waiting for Seline in the foyer, ready to depart for the event kickoff. Convincing Mom to come wasn't easy, but I encouraged her to look at it as a chance to honor Dad by celebrating something he loved. Honestly, it was a reminder I needed myself. I've been so focused on my own difficulties and need for personal success that I feel extremely guilty for not thinking of him sooner. I know. I squeeze her shoulders and drop a kiss to her hair. Tonights for him. I sense movement at the top of the stairs and look up, expecting to see Seline. Instead, one of the sentries emerges, striding swiftly down the stairs and coming to a stop in front of us. Seline says to go on without her, she's not feeling well. I force myself to take a few deep breaths. It seems ever since I yelled at her, Seline has been unwell more often than not. I wish I could take back my words that day more than anything. I've never felt more shame than the moment I realized my mate was afraid of me. At the same time, I have to wonder whether she's punishing me for having her followed Tuved, or perhaps for keeping her married to me. I don't believe it's intentional. Seline doesn't have a cruel or passive-aggressive bone in her body, but the subconscious is another matter. Concern paints my mother's features. You should go check on her. I shake my head, sighing again. This is the third time this week she's been too unwell to keep our plans. Trust me, me checking on her is the very last thing she wants. Oh, darling, she answers, squeezing my hand. Was your fight really that bad? I haven't told Mom about the threats we face. In fact, because she doesn't know the secret of Seline's blood. My wife actually knows more of the truth than my mother. Neither woman leaves the pack house often enough to have heard the rumors spreading like wildfire, and I won't worry them with the increasing evidence of ongoing foul play. I'm not sure my mother's broken heart could take the stress. And I refuse to make my mate live in any more fear than she already must. Thus, all Mom really knows about our argument is that we disagreed about Seline's safety. And I was an asshole. Yes? I finally reply, it was. Hey. Wendell. Seline's point of view. I've discovered that lying on the bathroom floor for hours isn't nearly as pleasant when you're not delusional with fever. Impossible, as it seems given how miserable I was at the time. Being completely lucid and dressed to the nines while endlessly vomiting is far more unpleasant. As Dr. Kane predicted, my nausea doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. Even with his medicine, I still haven't put on any weight, and I'm becoming increasingly worried for my baby. How can it possibly grow when I can't give it any nutrients? I'm also terrified Bastion is going to figure it out. If I could fake good health, I would. But there's no chance for any normalcy when I can't move from the bathroom. How many more times can I cancel our plans before he suspects why I'm sick so often? The horrible thing is that I want nothing more than to be near him, especially now. Soothes me more than my mate. Even if he can't make the sickness go away, his presence alone helps get me through. Instead, I'm stuck in a cage of my own making. The closeness we rebuilt after his father's death has been slowly fading, especially after our fight. Nothing has been quite the same since that day, and the more distant Bastion is, the more I think he may ask to reschedule the rejection soon. No matter how much I need Bastion's support, I won't risk telling him about the baby. If there's a chance he's going to toss me to the curb in another month, I know he would be happier without me, and there's no doubt the pack would be happier with Arabella in my place. Tears well in my eyes and annoyance sweeps through me. I seem to cry all the time now. It's only that I should be trying to make the most of our last days together. And instead, I'm stuck here on the floor. It all seems terribly unfair. But at least Bastion will be having a good time at the festival. After all, one of us should have some fun. It took months to plan and minutes to destroy. Everything was fine. At first, people sang and danced and ate. Bonfires were lit, fireworks set off, and floating lanterns released into the sky. Children and adults played games and embarked on runs through the forest. Entertainers rotated across the main stage, delighting audiences with everything from circus acts to traditional cultural dances. Everything was fine. Until it wasn't. Mom and I were stationed at one of the bonfires drinking hot spiked cider with Aiden and Donovan when screams sounded in the distance. Aiden and I took off at a full sprint, leaving Donovan to get my mother home and guard the house. Those stalls and attractions are spread out through the city. The main stage is built in the middle of one of Elysium's largest parks, though now it might be more accurate to say it's built in the middle of what used to be a park. Now it is only a deep reservoir of sludge, a combination of water, mud, trash, bodily fluids, and who knows what else. At first, when the water line running beneath the meadow burst, it wasn't clear what happened. Water began slowly seeping up through the ground, until eventually the people seated on the lawn noticed the ground going muddy beneath their feet. By the time the people in the bleachers caught up to things, the field was under 2 feet of water, and any hopes of an orderly evacuation went out the window. The bleachers and stage sank into the quickly forming bog, while pack members and tourists scrambled to escape the quicksand. Like mire. The fallout spread through the city as the people trampled each other trying to escape, and the muck overflowed into the streets like molasses. By the time Aiden and I got there, it was far too late. We shut off the water to the entire city, but an ocean had already laid siege to Elysium. The only blessing is that there were no deaths. The injuries were too many to count, but shifters are difficult to kill and heal fast. The long-term damages will be to the city itself, to people's mental health, and undoubtedly to me. So far it doesn't seem like anyone is blaming me for the burst pipe. After all, how could they? The reality is actually far worse. The handful of council members I spoke with shared that the pack was viewing this as a bad omen from the goddess. A condemnation of my leadership, and in the worst cases, Sudi, possibly a punishment for my supposed crimes. I was afraid of a disaster. Instead, I got Armageddon. Chapter 29. Arabella's offer. Seline's point of view. Ever since I got pregnant, I've been sleeping through the night, and in fact, much of the day without any problem. But tonight, I wake closer to dawn than dusk, feeling nothing out of order beyond a heavy weight pressing down the mattress near my hip. I blink and rub my eyes, surprised to discover I can actually see Bastion through the pitch-black night. He's sitting by my side, his elbows braced on his knees and his head in his hands. He's stripped off everything but his boxers, every hard ridge and valley of his powerful form exposed to my view. I sit up slowly, unease fluttering in my belly. Bastion. I reach for his shoulder, settling my hand firmly on his warm skin and beginning the tender caresses I already know he needs. What's wrong? His head turns my way, an oddly hollow look in his usually soulful eyes. I'm glad you weren't there tonight, Bastion tells me roughly. If this is what it's going to be like, the more time we spend apart the better. I retract my hand abruptly, feeling as if he punched me in the gut rather than speaking. I pull my knees up to my chest, unsure whether I should stay or leave. Bastion doesn't seem to notice I'm no longer touching him, though I'm not sure he realized I was touching him to begin with. I'm not sure how much more of this I can take. He announces. It wasn't supposed to be this way. As ever, my eyes betray me, flooding with tears large enough that my husband can smell the salt. He reaches for my hand, his mouth twitches in a grimace. I'm sorry I put you through this. I'm sorry too. I sniffle, feeling as if my lungs have collapsed in my chest. More than you know. 10. Bastion's point of view. What are you thinking so hard about? Arabella is standing in my doorway, her bleached blonde hair piled on top of her head in a complicated twist. At first, I'm confused to see her in the pack house so late, then my mind jumps to the worst. What's wrong? I jolt to my feet. Who's hurt? What's on fire? Arabella greets my cynical panic with a tinkling laugh. Honestly, Bastion, you should write greeting cards. She teases. Nothing's wrong. I came to check on you. Oh. I breathe, slowly lowering back into my chair and glancing at the clock. At midnight, she flashes her gleaming white teeth. I was on my way home from the bar and saw your light on. As quickly as she smiled, she switches to a pout. You've had a really rough few weeks. Yeah, I agree. It's been rough without Dad. I'm sorry I haven't checked in with you more. How are you doing? Arabella has been putting on a strong front since the murder. Like she always does. But my father raised her from the time she was a child. I know how much pain she must be in. She shrugs. I'm keeping my head up. Bella, you know I'm here if you ever want to talk, right? We've only connected a few times since the funeral. For the most part she's kept her distance, but she's always preferred to grieve alone. It was the same with Flynn. Even so, I have to wonder whether she has anyone to truly confide in. I know, Bastion, she murmurs, and you know that goes both ways, right? I don't think you have enough time for that. I joke. Try me, Arabella offers. Well, you know most of it. I grumble. The pack hates me. Mom's barely hanging on. The investigation is going nowhere. I was too selfish after Dad died to let Seline go, and now I've subjected her to the pack's derision and put her in danger from whoever is so determined to bring down the family. The words pour out of my mouth in a rapid stream. And I've probably undone all my father's hard work in less than a month of being alpha. What is happening with the investigation? Arabella prods. Not much. My voice sounds strange to my own ears. Too devoid of the emotion eating me alive on the inside. The enforcers know how the murderer got in. They know a male wolf was responsible. But beyond that, I shrug. Another couple of weeks and they'll label it a cold case. Arabella sits up indignantly. So fast. It's not about the time that's passed since the crime. It's the time that's passed since they had a lead, and they've never gotten anything beyond the initial crime scene. That's unbelievable. Arabella complains with an odd note in her voice. He was the alpha, he deserves better. I agree, I state, absent-mindedly shuffling the papers on my desk, but hanging onto cold cases too long prevents them from investigating more recent crimes with stronger leads, and that cannot be allowed. You're so good. Arabella praises me warmly. I snort. You're just about the only person that thinks so. That's not true, she insists, sidling around to me and perching on the armrest of my chair. You have more support than you think. Her graceful hands land on my shoulders, massaging my tight muscles. In fact, if you need help with anything at all, Fruity, I want you to call me. I'm serious. I want you to put me to use. It's the least I can do. I can't explain it. But something feels off about her stroking hands, as if the movements are just a bit too slow, a bit too languid to be innocent. Before I met Seline, I always planned on making an offer or marriage to Arabella, and she knew it. However, after finding my mate, I vowed to provide for Arabella financially rather than wedding her. Now I'm beginning to wonder if she might believe things will go back to the way they once were after Seline leaves. I shrug off her hands. I don't want anyone other than my mate. I would rather be alone my whole life than choose another. I appreciate that, Bella. I try to smile, but only half succeed. Actually, the most help you could be might be to my mother. She's really having a hard time. Bizarrely, things going so badly for me seem to have given her a little motivation to carry on fucking tausch. Like me, needing her has provided some of the purpose she lost. If you could help make her feel needed, I would be eternally grateful. Of course, Arabella promises. Like I said, whatever I can do, and I love Odette. Thank you, sister, I say pointedly, hammering home my intentions. Any time. She purrs throatily. Alpha. Tend. How? For the second time in as many days. I wake in the middle of the night. However, this time, Bastion hasn't entered our room, and I have no idea what roused me from sleep. I scan the room and then check in with my body, staring at my belly curiously to see if nausea or the increasingly frequent need to pee is going to set in. Neither happens. But I'm so awake now, I don't think I'll be able to go back to sleep. Instead, I slide out from the silky sheets and grab my robe from the hook on the door, exiting into the main apartment. Nothing. Not a sight or sound. I glance at the clock. It's almost 1 a.m. Bastion must still be in his office working 10D. That or he's passed out over the keyboard. With a sleepy groan, I shove my feet into a pair of slippers and head down the stairs to the main house, hoping Bastion won't be angry with me for interrupting or waking him. After everything he said after the festival, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around him, tundered, which isn't a great way to feel in one's own house. Granted, I probably won't be here much longer based on his words. As I near the second floor, landing, one of the sentries pokes his head around the corner. Is everything okay? He asks. Yes, I whisper, conscious of Odette's bedroom door standing only a few feet away. Is Bastion still working? I think so, the sentry answers. Miss Winters arrived a little while ago and has been in with him since. I freeze momentarily, gradually finding the will to respond. Thank you. I don't know why I continue down the stairs. I know I'm not going to find anything I want to see. If anything, I'm going to find only heartbreak. It's not a surprise exactly, not after the jewelry store, but I never imagined they were carrying on the affair inside my own house. My heart sinks as I approach Bastion's study, the unmistakable sounds of voices audible within. Just before I enter the office corridor, I hear the door click open. I halt immediately, peering around the corner just in time to see Arabella planting a kiss on Bastion's cheek as she departs. If I thought I couldn't hurt worse than I already did, I was wrong. Seeing them so happy together, sneaking around even while the world seems to be crumbling around this family, it's too much to bear. Chapter 30. Kidnapping. Bastion's point of view. I barely recognize my mother. Her once glowing skin is pallid and gray, her usually bright eyes are dull and glassy, and even her hair seems to be losing its color. She's barely left her room since my father died, staying in bed all day and hugging his pillow as she cries. As distant as Seline has been lately, she seems equally concerned about my mother's health, now hovering beside me outside the master bedroom and peeking worriedly through the gap in the door. You have to talk to her, she urges. And say what? I counter helplessly. Celine's two-toned eyes cut to me. She needs a reason to go on without Gabriel, she proclaims. To be reminded of how much she still has to live for. My head shakes back and forth. She's lost everything. Not everything, my wife says pointedly. If there's one force on this earth stronger than love for a mate, it's love for a child. She nudges me toward the door. If her purpose as a mother can't pull her through, nothing will. Utterly dejected, I drag my hand over my face. But she doesn't want to pull through. Seline cocks her head to the side, waves of long dark hair streaming over her shoulder. You're the one who's always saying being an alpha is about giving people what they need, even and especially when they don't want it, she emphasizes. Odette isn't in any state of mind to know what she wants right now. Everything she says makes sense. But none of her logic or encouraging words can budge the tangle of guilt lodged in my chest. It shackles me as completely as any irons. It feels selfish to keep her here when she wants to be with him. I admit the irony of our situation taunting me mercilessly. It used to be that there was only one woman I was forcing to stay with me. Now she herself is campaigning for me to do the same to another. And what would your father have to say about it? Seline inquires, a hard edge in her sweet voice. Do you think he would want you to stand by and let her waste away? Do you think letting her suffer and die is somehow more humane than helping her live, or that he would forgive you for letting her go when you still need her so badly? The truth of her words shines through clear as day. My father would never forgive me if I let Mom throw her life away for him. He would probably haunt me to the edge of madness, then greet me with more punishments when I join him in the other world. Without another word, I carefully push the door open and quietly approach the bed. How are you feeling today, Mom? She doesn't answer. Instead, burying her face deeper in the pillow to breathe in my father's lingering scent. She frowns when I open the drawn curtains and sunlight pours into the dark room. But she does not speak. My mother has always been a force of nature. Strong and composed, intimidating and poised in equal measure. Seeing her brought so low is painful, and I wish I'd inherited more of her traits than my father's. She always knows exactly what to say, even in the worst of times. I was hoping I might persuade you to come have dinner with Seline and me. I propose gently. When she only gives me a blank look in response, I press. There are some things I'd like to talk about. I need your help, Mom. A flicker of concern filters through the hollow well of pain in her eyes. Though still, she does not speak. I don't know what to do about the pack. I breathe, feeling a slight weight lift from my shoulders by virtue of simply speaking the words aloud. I always thought Dad would be here to guide me when I took over. He prepared me for war, for crises and natural disasters, but he never prepared me to face it all alone. My throat tightens. Everything feels like it's falling apart. I confess. Every time I think I've got a handle on a problem, something else comes along and sweeps the rug out from under me, and the pain is only going to keep coming. Axel growls. Do you really think you can survive losing Seline on top of everything else? Not now. I bite back, in no mood for my wolf's continued pressure to claim my mate before she can reject me. Mom is sitting up now, leaning against my side with comforting warmth even. Though I'm not sure if this was her intention, or if she's simply too weak to hold herself upright. You helped Dad lead the pack for 30 years. My hand dwarfs hers as I squeeze her bony fingers. You have experience and insight I don't. Please say, you'll help me. The limp hand beneath mine twitches, then slowly turns over to return my squeeze. I know what you're doing. She scolds without conviction. Smiling tremulously, she adds, what kind of mother would I be if I refused you? A very, very bad one. I tease. A noise somewhere between a hiccup and a sob escapes her lips. Of course I'll help you. Thou end. It seems no matter how small the victory, none can stand in this horrible new world order. No sooner had I eased my immediate concerns for my mother's state of mind than a new disaster unfolded. I was on my way back to my office from Mom's bedroom when Aiden's voice burst to life in my head. We have a problem. Stopping in my tracks, I braced myself for the inevitable. Tell me, a patrolling enforcer found Arabella's car abandoned down by the lake. He relayed. The scene appears to indicate foul play. All her belongings were still there. The doors open and signs of a struggle. Blood on the seat. What? I thunder internally, my heart struggling to beat. You need to get down here 7 now. Aiden answers. By the marina. We're not going to be able to keep this quiet for long. I'm on my way. From there, I stormed back to the top floor apartment, gathering up a very confused Seline and sequestering her and Mom in a secure room with 4 of my most trusted guards. The emergency plan has been in place since the morning after my father died. I was prepared for another attack on the family, especially one targeting my wife and mother, but I never even considered Arabella. I can't believe how stupid I was. Of anyone, Arabella is the easiest target to reach. She doesn't live at the pack house and doesn't have a standing guard, and everyone knows how important she is to me. If she dies, I'll only have myself to blame. As if it wasn't bad enough that I killed my best friend. Now I'm going to have his baby sister's murder on my conscience too, goddess. I hope I'm not too late. Wes Town? If I go the rest of my life without walking into another crime scene, it won't be soon enough. The sight of yellow caution tape and evidence markers is becoming so familiar to me they're beginning to lose their shock value. Unlike her car, which looked like the site of a barroom brawl, Arabella's apartment seems completely untouched. Her furniture is upright and her belongings tidy. All surfaces clear and clean. If it weren't for the dishes in the sink, it would almost look unlived in. Anything look out of place? One of the investigators is asking. I rub my jaw. I haven't been here in a long time. I don't think I would be able to tell if it was. The enforcer's eyebrows raise, but he doesn't share his thoughts. Not having any patience for withholding, I infuse pure dominance into my tone. You doubt my honesty? No, Alpha. He insists instantly, shrinking in on himself. Then what? I demand. If he were in wolf form, his tail would be between his legs. It's just that the word around the pack is that Miss Winters is your mistress. Excuse me. I snarl, my fangs elongating. We all thought. That's why you're rejecting Mrs. Durand. The man's partner speaks up, redirecting some of my ire onto himself. It's no surprise that the pack gossips, and knowing our history, the theory even makes sense. However, the idea that such vicious lies have been circulating around my mate makes my blood run cold. I'd like to find the person who came up with the story and rip them apart very slowly. I assure you. You've been misinformed, I growl. The lead investigator clears his throat. Then this may be difficult to explain, he says, holding out a piece of stationery. I snatch the paper from his hand, my eyes flying over the page with increasing disbelief. There, clearly scrawled in Seline's handwriting, is the message. This is your final warning. If you want to live, stay the hell away from my husband. I will know if you see him, and you will pay. Howdy, Seline. Chapter 15. I want to make Bastion jealous. Seline's point of view. My lungs burn as I choke on the salty pool water, trying desperately to keep my eyes open. A razor-sharp pain explodes in my chest, tearing me from the inside out. As my airway seals shut and all the oxygen leaves my body, I feel a strange sense of peace, as if I know in my heart it's over now, and I can finally rest. As my eyes shutter for the last time, I catch a final glimpse of the mortal world, an eerie cauldron of blue and green, dotted with the reflections of the garden's fairy lights. The yellow orbs are broken only by the soft air pockets floating skyward. And then an explosion of bubbles and foam. An iron bar circles my middle, and suddenly I'm ascending, catapulting towards the surface. Salt water spews from my mouth as I burst into the fresh air. I cough violently, unable to focus on anything but gulping in as much oxygen as I possibly can. I'm floating towards the pool's edge, vaguely aware of a warm body holding me aloft. Half a dozen hands pull me from my watery coffin, rolling me onto my stomach so that I can expel every last drop of fluid from my lungs. A heavy blanket settles over my shoulders, and I realize I'm shivering like a wet chihuahua. Familiar voices break through the haze, fussing and calling my name. I crack my eyes open to find Odette and Gabriel sitting on my left, both bone dry. I turn my head in the opposite direction, zeroing in on the man dripping water from every thread of his ruined tux. His hair is so dark it's almost black, and he watches me with piercing green eyes. He is not nearly so large as Bastion, but he is plenty imposing. Only his dimples soften the angular lines of his face, giving his stony visage an oddly boyish look. He has the undeniable air of an alpha wolf. But I'm sure I've never seen him before. He must be from another pack. I realize. Thank you. I gasp, reaching for his hand. The man clasps my palm, squeezing gently. Don't mention it, Seline, sweetheart. What happened? Odette is hovering over me like a frenzied mother hen. Distress drawn in every line of her beautiful face. Give her some space to breathe, my love. Gabriel says, scooping me up. Let's get her inside. As the crowd of guests part to let the alpha pass, I hear my mother-in-law fussing over my savior. You must be freezing. Please come inside and we'll find you some dry clothes, Mr. Kavanaugh. I recognize the name. The Kavanaughs lead the Eros pack. This man is too young to be the alpha, but I'd bet good money he's next in line. Gabriel carries me up to one of the hall's social parlors. His mate close on his tail, commanding the various sentinels to bring blankets and dry clothes. Every inch of my body feels bruised and drained. I never knew drowning was so painful and exhausting. I'm barely conscious as Gabriel deposits me on a plush settee. And Odette gets to work stripping my sopping dress from my trembling body. She bundles blankets around me, only letting the men enter the room once I'm completely covered. My mother-in-law strokes my drenched hair. I'll call Bastion. She promises, retrieving her phone. The Eros pack heir strides into the room behind Gabriel, dressed in one of the older man's suits. His hair is still wet, but no one at the party will hold that against him. Seline, Gabriel broaches gently. This is Drake Kavanaugh. Drake? Meet my daughter-in-law, Seline. Thank you again for saving me. My voice is a shadow of itself, weak and hoarse. I should be thanking you, Drake grins. It's not often I get to play the hero. I might even get a few dates out of this. My laugh is interrupted by a cough, but the warmth remains. This man is all light and charm sud. Nothing like Bastion. I'm glad I could be of help, I reply throatily. Do you remember what happened? Gabriel asks me, his salt and pepper brows furrowed. Like I could forget. Number, I lie. I don't think I can bear the embarrassment of explaining the truth. 1 minute I was walking by the pool and the next I was in it. Sweet girl, Gabriel murmurs sympathetically. Bastion should have taught you to swim a long time ago. Our conversation is abruptly silenced by the sound of Odette's raised voice. What do you mean you can't? The door to the hallway is closed, but her words are as clear as day. Did you hear what I said? Your wife almost died. You cannot tell me there is anything more urgent than this. We all pause, and I feel a familiar lump in my throat. No explanation was needed. Bastion was choosing Arabella over Mephisti again. The same kindling flames I felt before confronting that horrible gossip ignited once more. Suddenly, I did not want to simply curl up and wait for Bastion to come sweep me home. No, I want to make him see what he's missing, and I know exactly how I'm going to do it. Lean, high, way, so, just so we're on the same page. You want to use me to make your husband jealous. I'm standing before a mirror again. In my second dress of the night. My hair has been blown dry, and though I still feel like death warmed over, I'm determined to rally. Unlike the molten silver dress, the pool destroyed, the emerald gown I now wear reveals far more than it leaves to the imagination. Its silk bodice appears almost painted on, and the flowing skirt is slit straight to my hip. I didn't say that, I hedge, smothering a smile. But if that's how you want to interpret it, go right ahead. Oh, I have no objections, Drake teases. I just want to make sure I know the plan. I'm quickly coming to like Drake. He is warm and easygoing, always ready with a laugh. Well, in that case, yes. That's about the size of it. Normally, I wouldn't dream of doing something like this, playing games or seeking petty revenge for Bastion's neglect. I know he cares for me as best he can, but part of me is still aching from the rejection announcement. Can I ask you something? I request, slowly working up my nerves. Of course. The young wolf replies, this will probably sound very odd, but I don't know a lot about our kind. I admit. Drake nods, appearing suddenly serious. I'm aware of your history. An apologetic look crosses his countenance. Gabriel notified my father when your stepfather ran. He thought he might seek refuge in our territory. Ah, I say simply. Then it won't come as a surprise to you that my knowledge of pack behavior and traditions is a bit lacking. He offers me a conceding nod. I heard something tonight I didn't understand, and I wondered if maybe you could explain it to me. Drake raises one dark brow. I don't suppose this has anything to do with the woman who pushed you into the pool. I gape at him. You saw. I have to say you're being a lot more forgiving about it than I would be in your shoes. He remarks blithely. All I can do is blink in surprise. But you didn't say. Drake shoots me a look. Heroes don't tattle. You clearly didn't want Gabriel to know. I purse my lips. I think this hero stuff is starting to go to your head. What was your question, Seline? Drake laughs. What's the difference between marriage and claiming a mate? I can feel the vermilion flush heating my cheeks. The future alpha does not look surprised. You mean marking? Yes. That is exactly the word those horrible women used. Well, Drake clears his throat. Marriage is only half of mating but a legal union. But to truly claim one's mate you have to mark them, like scent marking. I clarify. Yes. He answers. Only this is permanent. It's a bite which infuses your mate's scent into your body so that it may never be washed off or covered up. Marking your mate is the ultimate commitment solace. It solidifies the soul bond, connecting your wolves completely and making it impossible to be parted. I can feel a lump rising in my throat. So if someone lost their wolf, Drake sighs deeply. I don't have an answer for that one. You're the only person I've ever heard of experiencing that. And I have no idea if it'd be possible to bond with someone who has been disconnected from their soul. I blink away a rogue tear. It's not like it matters. I may not even have a fated mate. I was just curious. Plenty of people marry without marking each other, Seline. Not every union is divine by fate, he reminds me. I know. I offer up a watery smile. Drake TSKs and takes my face in his hands, brushing my tears away with his thumbs. At that moment, the parlor door swings open, and an animalistic snarl fills the air. Take your hands off my wife.